that a lot of people don't like. A lot of Black Americans, I don't know about Black Brazilians, but I think they don't like about this trope.
Yeah,
I don't mind it.
there's all kinds from like Lawrence of Arabia and all those other colonial movies that are in the 60s and 70s that no one really remembers because I don't know, they just don't watch them. They're classics, but some of them are great, some of them are bad. I think Ishtar might be one that's really bad. I can't recall them all. But man, lots of films that have white dudes amongst other dudes who aren't white, who you might consider being saviors. I don't know. It's a weird trope. Anyway.
Yeah, from okay.
All right. Let's get started. Good afternoon, folks. Welcome to Smudcast number 148. This is the white savior trope explained from the YouTube channel The Take. And let's see how old this is. This came out July this year. And you don't know The Take. They are a channel of 1.17 million subs. So they got a lot of following, a lot of people all about, just talking about all sorts of things related to the period pieces that these tropes take place in, but other films that you might not even expect, like Indiana Jones, where Indiana Jones is a white dude going around the world and trying to save all the non-white dudes from something or else. So the trope expands across multiple genres, and you might not even think about it because you don't watch these movies because you don't care. You like action and adventure and science fiction and fantasy, and et cetera, et cetera. You don't really think about period pieces that happened 100 years ago or 200 years ago in America's history. But it is a thing. And remember, tropes are neither good nor bad, but it's all depending on the depiction. So some people might be very sensitive to that sort of thing. And we have to just understand where they're coming from to appreciate the lens they're using, because we're not using the same lens. So let's just keep that in mind. So this is a 21-minute video. It's going to take some time. So, we're going to be talking about some racism, guys. So don't take it too seriously, okay?
No, I have the N-word pass, so I can give you guys.
You can give us the N-word pass. I don't think we're going to take you up on that offer, but that's...
Yes, because...
Yeah, it's fine. Start using N-word, guys. Yeah, no problems here. I'm sure that'll work out really well.
Hey, you can use the Navy word.
The Navy?
You can use Navy.
Oh.
What's Nautilus?
The Nautilus termination? What is it? The Marine Corps? Niner? What is it? The M's? It's all... I know they have a specific alphabet.
You can use Nigeria, too.
Nigeria? Ooh. Okay.
Norway. There's a lot of N-words.
What was it? Uncompetitive managed to report EFAP after Jay Longburn said the N-word. So if a black woman can say the N-word and still get a stream taken down, I'm sure we wouldn't survive.
Oh my God. The entire hip-hop industry would just come to a crashing halt if you couldn't use the N-word.
But it is funny
that... throws a lot of it.
The racial slur, which is commonly accepted that only like black people can say, is like something they can't even say now because they'll get reported. Like, or at least their video can be reported.
Oh dear. Well, it's not a big deal. I understand the sensitivity. It's kind of a joke at this point. We're in 2020, going on 2021. If comedians can say it, why not us? Why not the rest of people? We know what it means. Rap artists can use it. Musicians can use it. It doesn't really bother me, but you know.
Doesn't speaking as a black person, doesn't bother me at all too. But I can get it why some people will get sensitive about it.
I think it's mostly because of cancel culture and people who are on the left are very sensitive about race. So I just language is not really that big a deal when you're speaking it. When you're writing it, that's where I get a little more sensitive as we're talking about books and words and grammar. But actual conversations, it doesn't really bother me. So, anyway. I know. I've heard much worse words.
I think I have less issue, I'm fine with people saying it. It's just I more just don't say it because of... I value my career and not being wiped off. Like
I totally get it. If you need to protect your career, it's is the
Message
most
coming in.
Shiny, if you
The-
want
the
to
most
dress
important
up
through.
as a black man with blackface, you can run and become successful as the prime minister of your country. Just in case you didn't know that, you can totally, and you can do it multiple times.
Oh yeah, you can go.
What?
You can do it multiple times through your career as a drama teacher, and you'll be just fine. So don't worry about it.
Oh no, but this is the creative industry we're talking about.
Well,
Yeah,
People get tweets which have been dug out over years, and then they'll get cancelled over it.
I'm just saying it's possible. You'll be just fine.
It's possible, but it's also possible that, they'll dig up a tweet I say anyway and just kick me out of the industry.
Yeah.
You only need to have the army on your side, and then you can say whatever you want.
Oh, that's how it works. Yeah. Well, maybe not in the UK or Canada, where we don't really have the army on our prime minister's sides. They're just in charge of everything else. But anyway, whew.
Wait, Canada have an army?
Well, we have an army, just that they're not privy to the prime minister. They're privy to the.
They're also a bit like they inherited the part of the French, which is all about running away.
Yes.
Yes.
Kind of, I guess. Sort of. Yeah. Like the prime minister is just the guy in charge of the country, but not necessarily the military. So.
Well, America's like the commander-in-chief kind of thing.
Right. The president is the guy in charge of all the military
Yeah,
operations.
The idea of the U.S. president being the commander-in-chief is to a civilian commanding the army, not a military commanding the army.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue about which is superior or which works, but yeah, it is different
Yeah.
when you are Canadian. We're a lot more liberal-minded in Canada in general. So, military
I think
maneuvers.
I kind of stopped taking my military seriously when they started kind of appealing to cancel culture. There's a couple
Oh.
stories.
Wow.
I don't know if you heard of them.
Wow.
There's like the
Okay.
one lady who the context was there was this woman who was training to become a soldier, and she was struggling to actually get over training. I think it was some mud pit, and she was struggling to get through it, and then to climb over a wall. And then the drill sergeant was being a drill sergeant. He was yelling, "Oh, get up there, get up! What are you doing? You're lazy, you're useless, blah 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 blah." Trying to motivate her like everyone else. And then what happens is she breaks down and she starts crying.
Oh dear.
And the drill sergeant, or someone records this, the drill sergeant pulls her out of the mud, sits her down, he gives her a
Message
cup of
coming in.
tea, says this ain't,
Patching
the
it
military isn't really for you. But someone records this of her crying and him screaming at her, and he gets fired from his job.
Ouch.
Yep.
Not only you are weakening your own army, but your guys are enabling
Yeah.
people who might not be good for the army.
Yeah, so you're removing a perfectly good drill sergeant, and you're also enabling someone to go into an army who really, I mean, if they can't get through mud and jump over a wall, then they probably really shouldn't be in the army.
Well, there are other roles people, if they can't get through physical training, can still be part of the army in some desk job or some capacity in logistics. So if you want to serve your country, that's all well and good, but you have to know your role. You have to know your limitations. And if that lady can prove she can do basic, then great. More power to her. But breaking down and crying, that's not a good sign. So
Well, I do know
Imagine
these there's a lot of stories about like the UK and even Criminal Imagination saying the United Cuckdom. But you realize how many of the exact same stories also happen in America? Like I remember someone brought up the case in Scotland where I think it was an abusive mother won ownership over her son who was being abused by her after a divorce. But the thing is, that happens in America as well, so don't act all superior.
No, it happens here too.
There are
And you
many-
guys send your
it
troops to here.
happens. The thing is, it happens everywhere. Don't act like it doesn't also happen in America. I've seen the fucking news stories where it also happens.
yes, it's a common event to have people break up from marriages and have children, and how to deal with that, and how you fight for custody. It doesn't really matter what context. It's always a bad thing. So It's
So
tough.
talking about the lady that cried out, that had a breakdown. Imagine when send her to the battlefield, because I don't think she will take that. She will not be well when she killed a person.
It,
That's a whole other ball
yeah,
game. Yeah,
I was just agree. Yeah,
even trained soldiers have that problem as well. So yeah, that's right. But yeah, that's something that apparently gets easier with time, but it's still going to rack up some unconscious problems of guilt and other things that I'm not aware of because
That's
I'm not a
why.
soldier.
That's something that the army is doing as well. That's why you have mobile infantries, that is basically cars full of people, so that the personal guilds don't get really bad.
You mean guilt by association, meaning you're just around together doing all the same things. You're
No,
not as
because, yeah, you are around with your team, and the guild is spread for everyone. So
okay. Interesting. What an interesting study of the military to look at people going into battle as a team and all doing the same murderous activity. Well, it's a violent activity, regardless whether it's murder or not. You're still doing something violent. Anyway, let's get back to the topic and read some super chats and get started on the video before we keep on rambling about the military. As fun as that is, it's a different topic. So, Joe Crazy, howdy, gents. You ready for some white guilt? Oh, boy, aren't we all. We can't wait to talk about white guilt. What a wonderful topic.
I thought you were about to do like a wrestling intro. You ready for some nonsense?
No, I don't think that's...
that would be fun.
I don't think
He's a
that's...
spaceman coming out of Mass Effect. We have Smud Boy.
Woo! Look out! Yeah, I don't think I could do that. Yeah, not really my
And in
What
the
is
other
the
corner,
music?
we have The Take.
thing.
Whoever the fuck they are.
Yeah, I still don't know. They're just very popular, so it's always good to take on bigger channels to see why they're so popular, and they know their
They seem
demographic.
like the type of the channel like Watch Mode.
Something like that. It obviously they're talking about racial tropes, so they know their audience and what they're doing. I just don't know if that's all they do. I'm sure there's other things they do, but it's got to have a political slant.
I hope they have good arguments,
Yeah.
because if it is vacuous, I will be disappointed.
Well-
Looking at their channel, yeah, it just seems to be a content farm, just like Watch Mojo and all the other ones.
Yeah, but the thing is, we have to keep in mind is the trope itself is neither good nor bad. I didn't see anything inherently bad. In fact, I would even argue the magical Negro trope is a good thing because usually the secondary characters are teaching the protagonist an ethic, a moral, something that they have to learn about what's good and bad. And I see nothing wrong with that. That's a good thing to have this moral guy on the side saying, hey, thanks for fighting for me or whatever, but this is what you really should be doing. Like, I think that's a good thing. So they got to explain to me why it's bad, because I see nothing wrong with having a minority being the moral superiority in the story, or at least being the person who's like, yeah, I wish people were more like you, Miss White Protagonist or whatever.
I don't think it is bad.
I don't see the
Because
problem.
if you
I think
have
it's the white savior trope is the white person lowering themselves to help the minority. I think that's what it is.
Really? Okay.
Well, we can
Even
always
the
look at
white
the tropes and
trope is not even bad, because you can have good stories with a I don't know, a German kid who goes to Africa.
yeah, but
and
I think the argument is more along the lines of, oh, well, it's saying that minorities are lesser and the white people need save them and blah 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 blah.
All right. Let's keep
if
going.
if someone
So
wrote a story like that, maybe it is, but I don't think, because most writers wrote the characters.
White. Oh, the white savior trope, funny enough, led me to a website where the first video is this video.
Oh, no.
Great. Okay, we'll try another website.
Anyway, let's keep on going. EC Cons, thank you, sir.
Use DuckDuckGo to see.
So,
What is it?
Hmm?
What do you got?
the white savior is a white fantasy and a trope that won't help you get ahead in Hollywood. It occurs in films, but unless you're a director with a ton of clout, that's just more talking about it. But fuck, that didn't help. That's not a good TV tropes.
Go to TV tropes. It's called White Man's Burden. That's the one they use.
White Man's Burden.
Anyway, let's keep going on the super chats. Is the comic Superman Smashes the Klan guilty of white savior? It depicts most white characters non-racists, and by the end, racism is not a threat. I think if you're Superman, he sort of is just a big hero character, the pinnacle of superheroes. So you can see him as multiple things. And because he's an alien...
I mean, Superman is an alien.
Yeah, so he's pretty much an illegal alien in every capacity. So you could see him as that, but that's not a bad thing. I don't think that's a bad thing when you have Superman saving the day. And how that works, I don't know. I haven't read that comic. But there's nothing inherently wrong with Superman saving people from bad people. I don't see the problem. Here's later.
I don't see a problem either.
Here's later tears. Enward. Yes, thank you, Mr. Enward. Tim 2.
Enward.
2 Tim 505. Didn't Kanye stop singing to yell at a fan for saying the N-word, but he took her on stage to sing with him? Really? Did that happen? Kanye was so...
I really want to see if this happens.
That'd be hilarious if he brought someone on to sing with her and singing his song, which had him say the N-word, and she was saying it with him, and then he got pissed off. That would be hilarious. I don't think that happened, but...
I will check this up.
Yeah.
I will check this, because it's hilarious if it happens.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. I mean, that'd be right up par with Kanye's antics, but still, I have no idea. All right, let's get started. We're gonna wait. We're not gonna wait for LitDev to pop on, but he says he's gonna be on soon, so we'll just get started without him and see how long we can go until he pops on.
Tonight I saved your ass, so show a little appreciation, maybe.
In June 2020, while all eyes were on the movement for Black Lives following the police killings of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and others,
this particular historical conjuncture holds possibilities for change that we've never before experienced in this country.
The Help, a story about a white woman writing a book to confront racism, became one of the most streamed movies on Netflix, even reaching #1 in the U.S.
You is kind, you is smart, you is important.
The 2011 film's resurgence in popularity was met with a strong backlash because The Help is widely considered a white savior narrative.
Okay, so I want to know who the people are actually having a backlash to films which are period pieces, which are trying to be historically accurate with language and lifestyle of people of different races, because we do know that obviously America was very racial back in the day. So what's wrong with that?
You're not allowed to save black people, you're not allowed to help them, but you're, at the same time, if you don't help them, you're also racist. So you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't.
You know what? We should probably write a book on the inconsistency with SJWs who have like a narrow view of what media should be when you actually address terms, because they say, well, why don't you talk about racism? And then you have a period piece. This is too racist. It's like, what the hell do you want? So there has to be like an upper limit and a lower limit that you have to fit this Goldilocks, this magical, mythical section.
It's also hilarious that like you have to have a female character, but if she's too feminine, then she's weak. She can't have flaws. She can't be too masculine, otherwise she's a Miss Male character. You can't have this, that, and the other. You have to have the blandest, most forgettable plank of wood that never shows any emotion or weakness, who is completely powerful and no one can ever stop them, and they're never shown to be weak at all.
It's kind of tiresome.
So the rapper we were talking about was not Kanye, it was Kendrick Lamar, who brought someone on stage and prevented them from rapping with them because the lyrics had the N-word in it, which is hilarious, because I'm assuming it was his own piece of music.
So it really happened.
Yeah. Fantastic. Anyway, let's keep on going.
In other words, about people of color that centers on the benevolent actions of a white character.
Any civil rights movie, there's two heroes. There's the black hero and the white person that's equally as important.
Looking at the white savior character on screen
Lawrence
over the
of
decades,
Arabia.
we can see a common profile.
Okay, look at all these movies. Glory. Wow, that was a period piece in the 80s. Dances with Wolves, I remember that.
Dance with Wolves too.
Yeah. I don't think that was a racial problem of a movie. That was just a guy trying to live and coexist with the Native Americans. Dangerous
Yeah,
Minds.
I honestly don't see a problem.
Patching it through.
Hi, LiteratureDevil.
Hello.
Hey, how's it going, Lit Dev? What's happening?
Good. Just on Smudcast, ready to talk about the white savior.
You know what? We gotta have more guilt in our lives. We don't have enough this year. Gotta feel bad for my fictional
you
characters.
guys can say because I'm here, I am black, and I can enable you.
Oh no!
You know how Nietzsche once said that a day isn't complete without dancing, or a day without dancing is a day that's incomplete, or something like that. It's kind of like that, but with racism. Like a day without white guilt is a day that's incomplete.
Yeah, I think some of the critics of these films who think they're bad, like I really want to know why they're bad. Just tell me what makes them bad. Some of these are period. Some of these are like 200-year-old back in the past. Would
they call like Last Samurai a like a white savior trope? Because like obviously, even though it's historically accurate and a true story,
Tom Cruise is very, very white. So probably yeah.
I actually looked that up now.
Okay, let's just keep on going. Rem Never. Thank you, Rem Never. It did happen, but it wasn't Kanye. It was Kendrick Lamar. Yes, you're right.
Oh, yep. Mm-hmm.
So in case we don't know, you guys know what we're talking about. Kendrick Lamar brought a fan on stage in one of his concerts and singing his own lyrics. And when the fan started saying the N-word, he got pissed off.
And like, whoa. Hold on. You can't say that, even though I brought you on stage.
That's our word. Funny. You can't use our word.
You're not black.
It's really weird that a whole race has a monopoly on a word. Doesn't sound right in a nation that has freedom of speech.
It is kind of contradictory.
So a lot of I was right. There's a lot of people who accuse The Last Samurai of the white savior trope.
Oh,
I like that movie.
Someone just mentioned in chat Django Unchained. There's another one I totally forgot about. But wasn't that who did that film? Django.
It was Tarantino.
Yeah, Tarantino.
It was Jamie Foxx and it had the guy who plays Han Landa, Christoph Waltz in there. But Christoph Waltz wasn't really the white savior. He's more like the white mentor.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a pretty fun movie. I actually liked this movie.
That was
one of my favorites.
That was like 10 years ago or something. I can't recall exactly, but that was a while ago. So yeah, another story was slavery, but that's more because it's Tarantino. It's more of a fun, actiony, don't worry too much about the theme sort of idea. Just have fun. Watch this guy get revenge for whatever he's doing. So
And Samuel Jackson was the best. So was the best actor on that movie. I really like his role there.
Wasn't Game of Thrones also accused of the white savior trope?
Well, definitely with Daenerys. That is definitely true.
Yeah.
Even though it was always supposed to be more inspired by the slavery which the Roman Empire did, and it was purely based on the extras who just turned up on the day, rather than any they were actually selecting black people.
Wow,
Django Unchained. It was more like that. In Django Unchained, it was really more like the white mentor. I don't consider that a white savior thing. That's not the case there. I don't think.
Right, but there are that's interesting because Django was the guy. As far as I didn't see the film, but I'm assuming that's the name of the guy. Who was getting revenge. So he was the protagonist. I wonder if they would have a problem with that because. In
the movie, he's actually trying to save his wife, Hilda, from the cotton farm on the south.
He killed a lot of people.
Leonardo, he killed a lot of people there.
Django's awesome. I like that movie.
Yeah, it sounds like a fun movie.
It's made by Tarantino, who somehow has an actual real life black card. so he can actually say the N-word without getting any repercussions from it.
You mean he's a writer? He's not scared to say
Yeah,
what he wants?
Tarantino says a lot, and he doesn't care.
He doesn't care. I don't know how he did it, but he got an actual black card.
So I do recall, not the reviews, but I remember people talking about the Green Book when it came out a few years ago, and it was kind of like Driving Miss Daisy in reverse or whatever you want to call that. So that sort of take on things. So we have all these wonderful period pieces of what happened 100 years ago, 200 years ago in America's history. We shouldn't be scared of these films. We shouldn't be intimidated by them. We shouldn't be insulted by them.
If they're historically accurate, then there's no problem.
I don't think so. I think even if they're fictional...
No, there's no problem at all.
I think
there's a lot of nuance that people forget because a lot of African tribes sold slaves to the Europeans, especially Togo. Togo was the basis of the slavery.
Like, I don't mind the stories like with Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter or whatever that was. There's nothing wrong with telling a story that's fictional and goofy and fun.
That was more stupid than... It's kind of like, what was it? Pride and Prejudice with zombies.
Yes.
Trying to just add something a bit too nonsensical and fantasy into something real.
That's fine, but even films that are dramatic, like most of these films on screen right here, the focus is the drama. The focus is not, we got to be historically accurate 100%. We got to be sensitive to our current year audience. Like, that's not, like, which
Message
one?
coming in.
You can't do both.
No, there's not.
You have to focus on one thing.
Because if it's set in a historical time and not in a fictional time, then you need to be historically accurate to how things were.
That's,
I think, because you're supposed to be representing that time, and if you're representing something that's in the real world, if you're a fantasy, then you have full reins on what you want to do and where you want to take that. But again, set in the real world in a real time, you have to make it a product of that time. You can't be inaccurate.
Okay.
It's like me doing an English in a movie about the English medieval period, and I put a lot of Ethiopians there without explaining. So yeah, you need to be accurate when trying to do a historical movie.
That's a good point. You don't start throwing in characters. But that's the same problem with movies from the 60s and 70s with Lawrence of Arabia. All these white dudes from England acting as Americans coming to Arabia. It's like, oh, okay, that's interesting. So there are problems with that, even with the Ten Commandments movie and other things.
Even that's more due to behind-the-scenes limitations than any kind of creative decision.
Yeah, what can they get? What kind of actors can they hire? Yeah, exactly. So...
if we're in Britain,
Zulu,
you're probably going to get British actors.
There you go.
Zulu, it's a perfect movie about that because it is a 60s movie. It is a historical movie, and they hired the Zulu people on the South Africa.
Was that in the 70s?
Like, for
as well?
example, in I think unless there is some kind of like you can probably get away with it in this, I don't know, the 60s or in the 70s. Maybe even the 80s, but as we start to get into the modern period, there is really no excuse anymore to have historical inaccuracies. Especially, like, I remember there was like that whole I was trying to remember now. As Kingdom Come, there was the whole drama with the fact they didn't have enough black people. I was like, no, it's a historical accuracy. Piece of time which has been turned into a video game and it is accurate to that time. There was no minorities in the country at that time, so why would it make sense to all of a sudden be historically inaccurate and just throw them in there?
I mean, the Germans were the minority there. A lot of Czechs who hated the Germans in the game.
Okay, let's keep on going. To Tim, 505, thank you again. Thank you, Devil, for saving Superman. Devil, how did you save Superman? What did you do? Lit Dev, you there? I guess not. I guess he's...
I guess he made the Superman video, but I don't know if he saved him.
Yeah. Was he doing a stream about Superman today? I have no idea.
No, he made the Superman video ages ago.
Yeah, I know. But that's why I was wondering why they were thanking him today. So maybe something
I don't
happened
know.
I'm unaware of. Yeah. Anyway, let's keep on going.
They're strong-willed, often optimistic non-traditionalist who courageously risks being ostracized by their more prejudiced community in order to help a person of color.
Believe it or not, there are real racists in this town. If the wrong person caught you with anything like that, oh, you'd be in serious trouble.
They frequently
Young lady.
star in a period piece where this character appears ahead of the curve and stands in contrast to blatantly racist peers in their era.
You really think you can keep 7?
Yeah, it's the guy that everyone, all the SJWs think they would be during that time, but we know they wouldn't be. We know they would be.
Well, it's the kind of person they think they are these days. Oh, we're
Yeah,
just ahead of the
exactly.
curve.
So,
Even
what's
then,
the
I'm not even
argument?
sure how accurate this ahead of the curve kind of idea
And they have the curve
is,
now with their mainstream opinions and their corporate back talking points.
because
Yeah, really,
it is
really the
a lot
great
of the
thing.
films that I haven't seen. I assume, or at least it seems to me, that it is a lot more just like putting a modern day person with modern day beliefs in, I don't know, a film in a time. I don't know. It doesn't seem incredibly accurate to me.
Okay, so I'm assuming then these are black
Actually
critics
not,
who
because
are arguing.
these type of people exist. This type of people exist in the time. Here in Brazil, all the royal family during the Empire period, they were all anti-slavery. So
Yeah, but there's a difference between like being against slavery and also like not being racist. Just because you're against slavery doesn't mean you don't have any prejudices or biases.
I'm still believing that the critics thus are black critics and don't like seeing white protagonists being the saviors or whatever. I think, because I can't see these SJWs who are whites going, oh, this is horrible. Where are the black heroes that are changing society with their...
Obviously, only black people can help black people.
Guess?
Well, usually you get a white hero scenario, white savior scenario when in these period pieces, because usually the oppressed people are the people who are not white, and then you get the hero is the person who defies society to go against the norm to fight for what they believe is right, and on the moral hierarchy here, play the moral side that everyone should be treated equally and all that stuff. Is why you usually get the white savior in these scenarios, because in America it was not the white people who were like oppressed in the same way, at least in the same way. It's usually the old story of the black people were oppressed in America, and then you had the white savior come in to help free them somehow in some way, whatever the scenario is, and whether they're I don't know, they're something is being oppressed, like they're not getting enough funding for school or whatever it is, then the white savior who oftentimes is a woman in this situation, I don't know,
Yeah.
but they do something to defy the society to help them get more funding for the school.
Well, usually
for
it's a
example.
woman because a woman is supposed to be the more empathetic character.
Yeah,
Sure,
usually.
But look at action heroes from the 80s or what have you. They're mostly white dudes like Indiana Jones or Luke Skywalker who, because they're written by other white dudes, wow, what a revelation. They're going to have a white dude narrative. I mean, is that inherently good racial? I don't think so. I think just that's what they know. And
That's what they write.
Yeah.
And ironically enough, if they had written their characters in any other race but white, they'd complain about that too, because then now you're doing a culture appropriation, or you're not qualified to write for these people. Because one of the things is with HWs is that if you have a writer who's writing for a black person, a black character, then you better hope that you're also a black writer, because then the SJWs will swarm you and try to cancel you because you're you can't understand the experience of that racial culture. Okay, so
right.
they have to write the white male writers have to write white male characters, or else they're racist. But however, now because they did write white male characters, now they're racist because they didn't write black men or black characters. There's no winning. There's no winning.
Oh boy.
So imagine they tried to discover that Alexandre Dumas was black, and he
Yes.
wrote the
Three Musketeers
and the
Count of Monte Cristo.
yeah.
Great stories.
His stories are good, and even today we use them.
Yeah, Alexandre Dumas is fantastic. He's awesome. He's got these awesome stories.
Oh man.
I really like the Count of Monte Cristo. That's a good story.
That is a classic revenge story. So yeah, one of the best. Ah, boy. Oh, here's Mr. Spielman. Thank you, sir. Some whiskey money. That's whiskey with a Y, not an EY, so I know where you're coming from. I just had some Woodford Reserve today, so I am doing well in the whiskey department, but I always appreciate money with a good intention for quality, so I'll be sure to keep that in mind. Whenever I run, I'm not going to run out of whiskey anytime soon, but got to plan ahead for the future. So
very nice, very nice.
All
I'm
right.
only the boring guy here because I don't drink any type of alcohol.
Oh,
It's so good.
I gotta have your share then next. So that's all right by me. That's a good man, sir. Keep healthy and leave all the vices to myself. Okay.
I'll take some vice, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Union soldiers without proper shoes because you think it's funny.
The white savior tends to be the main focus of their story.
Yes, because it's their stories. What a concept.
The main character tends to be the main character of the story. Well, hold on there, Jethro. Slow down.
Who guessed it?
I never would have thought that the main character was the main character of the story. Interesting.
The main character was the main focus. Jeez, dear
It's like
God.
trying to see. It's like trying to see The Last Samurai without Tom Cruise.
Well, imagine Luke Skywalker. We want to tell a story about R2D2. It's like, really, that's what we should have been doing.
That's why all the
Imagine
movies and
if
TV
we
shows are
tell a
horrible.
story.
That's why all the LiteratureDevil movies or TV shows are horrible, because it was Picard was supposed to be about Picard, but it wasn't about Picard. It was about some weird robot lady. She was the main character in a show called Picard, and that's kind of what you see in all these other things too. That
So you could say Picard is the main character, but he's not the focus of the story.
Yeah, exactly. He's not the focus of the story.
Oh my
It's
God,
something
you're
like
completely
in the
right.
Mandalorian.
That's weird. That's a weird way of doing things, but yeah, that's what they do. Weird.
The
Yeah,
main
the side
character
characters
is
are
not the
always-
main focus. Well, I'd say it's more of a progressive thing because they wanted to sell the show purely based on Picard's name, but they didn't really. They wanted to tell a more progressive story.
Hashtag good person TM.
I think we all would have loved to have seen an old Patrick Stewart being dramatic and Shakespearean in his old age, talking about the military, his life in Starfleet, how life on Earth, like all the little nuances of daily life.
That's
So
exactly
old
what I wanted
Patrick
Picard to
Stewart
be.
being old Patrick Stewart.
That's what I thought Picard was going to be. That's what I wanted it to be. That's what I thought it was going to be. And then I got
He's in the
weird
wine
bump.
vineyard in France. I would have
That was gonna be
assumed.
him just on his vineyard in France and taking on like kind of like personal stories and stuff, and using his expertise as one of the most decorated Starfleet captains in history.
Instead, you've got a
solve problems on there.
60. Instead, you've got a 60-year-old who looks like he's 90, running around all the time.
Yeah, what is that? Why does he look so old? What happened to him?
Why is William Shatner? How old is William Shatner now?
William Shatner's like in his almost 90, I think.
Yeah, close.
He's in his he's 90, and he still looks like he's 60. Like, I
like to
reckon
follow
he
him on
would
Twitter.
be able
He's
to
pretty
do.
funny.
He's actually pretty active. Like he likes to bike a lot.
Yeah, one more year, he'd be 90. He's 89 right now.
Wow.
And he seems like he'd be able to act more as an action hero than Patrick Stewart. But then William Shatner isn't as progressive, I
Oh
suppose.
God, no.
No, he definitely is not.
No, he's pretty funny on Twitter. Everyone keeps attacking him, but he always does so. He'll use GIFs to reply.
Yeah, like Patrick Stewart is about, I would say, 9 to 10 years younger than Shatner. I think Patrick Stewart, as EC Con says, Patrick Stewart is like 80 years old. Shatner's 89. Why does Patrick Stewart look so old? What happened?
Oh boy, who knows? It's tough to figure out these guys
I
and their
mean, he's
diets.
British.
And Patrick Stewart looked like when he did Next Generation, he still looked about 60.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like Patrick Stewart's one of those guys who's like, he's been old his entire life.
The moment he was born, he just looked old.
Yeah, it's kind of like Anthony Hopkins. Kind of just always has been old. You would think that Patrick Stewart would be good at being old by now, but apparently he isn't.
Message coming in.
Here's a
Patch it.
He
interesting
is the
take
real Benjamin Franklin.
from Alex Halo. Thank you, Alex. SJWs like being real-life egotistical white saviors. Trying to think about that.
Well, that's what they are.
Because they see themselves as, oh, I'm helping the minority and the poor
They do.
person.
That's why minorities hate them so much. Oh, by the way, did I miss that one that says thank you level for the saving Superman?
Yeah, what was that about? Was that about?
Oh,
like.
I guess because of my Superman video.
Oh,
well,
okay.
no problem. I'm glad I could do
as I said.
for the character.
I thought you did something
Awesome.
recently on stream or something. I was like, I don't know. What did he do recently? I have no idea.
It's like 2 months ago. I realized 2 months ago, but I put a lot of work into that one. So
Yeah.
I'm glad you liked it. Sorry I missed it. I was handling something a little bit earlier, but yeah, I'm glad you liked it. It's like
Another uprising in hell you gotta quell.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Oh,
Too many
just,
damn
I just want to
souls.
correct something. I said Patrick Stewart was the Benjamin Franklin. I mean Benjamin Burton from the movie.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. To Tim505. Appreciate it. Glad you liked the Superman video.
It is a pretty good video.
Oh, thank you very much.
Oh, Amistad. I actually remember seeing reviews of this back in the day. Wow. Back on City TV. Wow. Holy jeez. What a time ago. So many period pieces that people love writing about. I don't think we're ever going to stop having period pieces. I think that's the joy of history, to tell a story about things that happened in the past and how it used to be and how we learned from that, how it was ago, what we can see, what we were like back then, the joys of film. Anyway, I think these are great films, but anyway, these people do not enjoy them that much because they have white guys in them. Dear.
So while movies featuring
those guys, yes. I mean, those guys. If you go back there, I think those were the Buffalo Soldiers. They were ex-slaves that joined the army to help the Federation.
Yeah, it was about some ship, some Spanish ship. I can't recall exactly the story, but there were slaves involved in joining the military there, yeah. Anyway, let's keep going.
Character may eloquently advocate for unity and fairness, they can also end up sidelining the Black and POC characters.
But you cannot hold Carl Lee Haley responsible.
Yeah, because of the main character.
Perhaps
he's the lawyer.
Why would you be the main? Why would the white guy be the main character and then be sidelined for the character who's not the main character? Doesn't make any sense. Why would you do that?
No, obviously a film should just stop focusing on the main protagonist.
Yeah, they just have to instantly start to automatically focus on the guy who has the darkest skin. And that's somehow not racist.
I mean, in this example, we have Indiana Jones. I don't even think of this as a ethic. Like, he's not some sort of moral, upstanding guy. He's just
like he's kind of there to get an artifact or something.
Yeah, he's just there to steal an artifact or something.
Exactly.
He was there he was there just to stop the Nazis.
Yeah, I think in that one he was kind of there to steal an artifact of some sort, but like saving an entire village happened to be one of the side effects of that. I don't think he was there to save the village.
I guess they would like that because his opponents are the Nazis. So this is a great white savior film because he's punching Nazis or something. It's like, okay.
I think the Temple of Doom, where the bad guys are like these weird cultist guys instead of Nazis.
Oh yeah, that was a bit crazy.
It's on the first movie.
That and
just doing a tangent here, because on the first movie the Nazis are on Egypt. That's kind of bothers me. Egypt was from the British Empire. That how the British don't know that the Nazis are doing a big excavation there.
I think we had the Nazis in the Royal Holy Grail as well. So it's been an ongoing thing in the Indiana Jones series.
It's just the time period it's set in.
Yeah, exactly. Gotta fight some Nazis.
Most jarringly, the white savior features in feel-good movies with happy endings,
Just thought our kids could play together.
which almost comfort viewers with a false sense that the ongoing, complex problem of racism is essentially solved by the end of a 2-hour movie.
Well, come on. Make some room. Get this man a plane.
Wasn't that just a film they played a second ago that doesn't end on a happy ending? The old guy gets shot, if I remember it correctly. It's about the old guy getting over his prejudices and he gets murdered, so the people threatening the Asian people's family isn't going to get arrested. It's not exactly a feel-good film. It's not exactly a happy ending.
I'm trying to...
I mean, those feel-good movies are pretty welcoming because people really need something to sometimes to feel better.
I don't see why there's anything wrong with a happy ending or a positive ending. Even if the themes
Why not have a positive note? But I just thought it was funny that they showed a film which doesn't have a positive note just while they were talking about it.
Yeah, I know. It's so contemporary.
I don't know why everything needs to be. I don't know why everything needs to be misery and negativity and
Nihilistic. Well, that's what they fucking do to Discovery and just Star Trek in general. It's all nihilistic, horrible now.
As well as many of them may be, the sheer ubiquity of these narratives, which are overwhelmingly created by white writers and directors, and frequently recognized by awards.
Wow, white writers talking stories about white characters doing good things. That's a horrible idea. Wow, it's just... Can't tell stories like that, guys. Those are bad stories.
I mean, what do you expect? United States a majority.
I would be shocked if some black writers and directors told black stories about heroic black characters. Like, wow, how
was
could
the Black Klansman supposed to be a comedy? At least that's my like what it looked like to me. I haven't watched it.
It didn't seem like a comedy. Yeah,
I have no idea.
I saw it. It's a you can laugh at it, but I don't think it is a comedy. It's a pretty good movie. Besides the ending, just that.
I remember after the
Am I thinking of another film then, like of another black person pretending to be KKK?
That was in Bad Boys 2.
No, it's not only that because there's two guys. There's the protagonist that does the phone calls, and there is the Jewish guy that infiltrates on the words not on my. When they go hold meetings, there's the Jewish guy who goes to the meetings.
It seems like, at least from the clips I've seen and the promotional material, it really seemed like a comedy to me, but I guess I was wrong.
Yeah, believe it or not, it's a pretty good movie.
Doesn't it also have a black protagonist?
I'm pretty sure it does.
Yes, you have the protagonist.
So how is it a white
black.
savior film?
Because it is.
Well, I don't know. Because it is.
Well, they might have the magical white guy as opposed to the magical Negro, and he might be the moral purveyor of all things good and true. So.
That was kind of the backlash, like the way Hollywood was trying to set it up, or trying to make it up, because they're kind of being blamed for the white savior thing. They added in a couple of new tropes. One is the wise black guy. So the stupid main protagonist who is white. Always goes to like this wise black man for advice and things, who would set him straight on the road to success. The thing is, they still hate that because it's still the white guy in charge. Still the white guy is the hero. And then you have the, of course,
I actually see this as the wise man, wise old man.
I would love to see
the weird. Yeah, Hollywood tried to make it up with these weird tropes. And it's made him angrier.
I would love to see a period piece with no white guys that are sympathetic to anyone else. They're just yeah, we're white, you're black. That's that, and that's.
But how can you have racism, Smudboy, if you don't have white people in there?
Yeah,
it's
I know.
Impossible.
But, like that would be the whole film. There's be no resolution. They don't care. No one cares about the other race. And in the end, everyone's miserable. It's like okay. Like that would be a period piece.
That sounds a pretty bad movie.
Yeah, that would be a period. Everyone's the same. It's like okay, that's great. No one's grown. No one learned anything. No one grew. There's no drama. It's just pure conflict about us being different. Like that's it. Okay. Like To Kill a Mockingbird. Just a black lawyer represents another black guy, and they can't sway the judge because he's a white judge. Like, oh my god, the end. Like, what? Is that?
There's a movie with Idris Elba that is the Molly's Game. Molly's Game. It's pretty good too. He's the lawyer, of course.
In black perspectives and their first-hand experience of racism.
I'd like to write something from the point of view of the help.
So what makes this trope so persistent? Here's our take on the dangers of the white savior trope.
There's a heck of a lot of white actors in Hollywood. That's why. Okay.
America's kind of a white country.
Very progressive.
Also, this is another one of these videos where they're going to show these weird scenes in the background and force you to interpret them yourself instead of doing them all a thing. We're just kind of, here's a scene that I'm going to play. I'm going to explain to you why it pertains to the subject matter at hand. It seems like I'm just going to play random clips.
Yeah, that's what this
to
is.
seemingly support my argument. Here's a clip, and
here's a bunch of black films, I guess.
Here's a clip, and then you draw the conclusions from them. It's not my job, okay? It's not my job to educate you.
They had a 2-second...
Even if they don't really make sense of the context of what you're talking about, as you say, oh, well, these films have a happy ending. They show the film with a bad, like an unhappy ending. And then they say, oh, well, these films have like white protagonists. Shows a film which has a black protagonist.
Now, I watched some of these films that have like the white guy or the white woman trying to, making friends with the black people and everything or whatever, the white savior thing. I always thought it was like a story about how white people would come to appreciate the other culture. I remember there's like a Disney movie. I forget what it was called. I think it's called Color of Friendship. That one's pretty good. It had a white main character. There's like a white main character and a black main character. And one thing about that was that I think she was from like South Africa or something like that. And then she was they're very racist over there. And they became one of the main topics of the film, and for some reason I forgot the reason why. But the main character, it's been like a decade since I've seen this film, but the main character goes in. She has to live with a black family for a while, a black American family, and of course the father doesn't like it very much because he doesn't like white people that much, and they learn to be friends. They learn to be friends over the course of the movie, and that's why I thought that's what I viewed anyway. What these so-called white savior sort of movies were like. The white protagonist learning to appreciate another person's culture, and learning to appreciate it to such an extent that they would put their lives on the line to defend it. That's what I thought. But I guess they just see racism,
and they're all very not pure of heart, but very pure of focus. Like say, To Kill a Mockingbird. Atticus Finch is a lawyer. He cares about justice. He's not so much trying to change the world. He just says, no, this man is innocent. I'm going to prove it, and I don't care about anything else. Like that's why he's there. Same with lots of teachers. There's lots of white. I don't know why there's so many white teacher, female stories out there. They just want to teach. They love teaching, and it doesn't matter. They want the hardest possible class to work with because to them that means something to them. They want to be challenged. So it's not so much I want to fix or help people that because they're black. It's like I want to help them because I'm a teacher. That's what I want to do.
And how we can shift our narratives and conversations to become more anti-racist ourselves.
It's not enough in 2020 to be not racist. Not racist meaning I am passive when it comes to racism.
How racist are you?
So it's not enough to be not racist. But if everyone was not racist, then there wouldn't be any issues.
Apparently, they don't care about being not racist. You. I mean, they're so apparently they themselves are so racist. They're bothered by white people in films. That's pretty racist to me.
What's the alternative to being not racist? I don't. To be racist?
I'm sorry, I have more pressing issues to focus on with my life, my work, my education, my career, what I want to do, what makes me happy, my relationship. There are so many things which are more important to me than you right now. I can't make my entire life around some people who I've never met that I'm not educated on in their problems, nor do I really care.
If you want to step on racism, how about we start with yourself first? think this think about what you're doing, that you're so bothered by white people in film that you just go out and make these videos and make these tirades and these and go out and make these actions and accusations. How about you just look at yourselves and say, wait a minute, why am I so racist that I'm bothered by white people in film?
You just need to think for a moment. And when you're saying it's no longer enough to not be racist, then I'm sorry, if you can't hear how fucking stupid that sounds, then I don't know, maybe you're just too far gone, but that is stupid to say that it's not enough to not be racist. Then what is enough? What could you possibly do?
Let's find out. I have no idea. He's probably going to finish this sentence. Let me just rewind it for a bit.
Should you be racist against white people? Is that the opposite? What you call reverse racism?
Oh my god, that'd be horrible. Oh my god.
It's not enough in 2020 to be not racist. Not racist meaning I am passive when it comes to racism. If you see
I'm passive when it comes to racism.
Call it out.
What?
Okay, you were talking.
No. Not being racist isn't being passive to racism. That's not what not being racist is. Not being racist means you don't have a bias or you're not discriminating anyone based on race. If someone's being racist and I see someone being racist, I'm going to say, no, dude, that ain't good. Cut it out. But what the fuck do you want from me other than that?
I am passive when it comes to racism. If you see it, you have to speak on it and call it out.
Yeah, but then you call almost everything out as being racist, so that means that the word now literally means nothing. It's the boy that cried wolf, and by actively crying about it all the time, even when it's something which doesn't matter, well done. You've devalued the word, and no one wants to listen to you anymore. And no one believes you.
Yep.
If you're new here, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell to be notified
Wait,
about all of our new videos.
What happened to the rest of it?
Wait. Okay, fine.
Oh, now it's the video.
The white savior complex in Western history.
Pocahontas? Really? All right. I thought
Is that a white savior thing?
Wasn't Pocahontas the main character in that story?
She's not white, last I checked.
I didn't understand.
Maybe this is any colonial story.
She's the main character.
Yeah, well, maybe this is anything with like slavery as the theme or an element, or you having some sort of colonization take place. I think that's what they're referring to.
I mean, John Smith is in there, but they kind of save each other at points.
Yeah.
She saves him.
Huh.
Can be traced as far back as the beginning of European imperialism, which was largely justified by the idea that white people were civilizing indigenous populations who were amoral by nature.
Do you think we'll meet some savages?
If we do, we shall be sure to give them a proper English greeting.
The popularity of this trope on film really took off during the 1950s and 60s during the rise of the American Civil Rights Movement, while calls for change were being led in the streets by black activists.
For we shall be victorious in our quest.
The mainstream films produced in this era explored how white men related to these tensions. And this reflected the prevailing assumption among studios that white audiences would not be able to relate to stories about race unless they could see them through the eyes of a white person.
You shouldn't be.
Let's assume that's true. Let's assume that that's the only way at the time, because they were so racially divided and sensitive, that was the only way to do that. Okay? How is that a bad thing? If you have a film where there's a guy like Atticus Finch. Sorry?
You can make an argument for 50s or 40s movie, but not for 60s, 70s, 80s, even 90s movies.
Yeah, after the rights movement took place and everyone agreed, yeah, this is totally what we should do. This is how we should treat people. And it was already on the books, so it's like, yep, we should just have to get over our prejudice and eliminate all the crap that came with it. Then yeah, you can tell stories like this. We all can appreciate, wow, this guy's a hero. Even though he's just a lawyer doing his job, he's fighting for what he believes is right and trying to tell a story. They actually showed a really good clip from representing 12 Angry Men. Great film. Lovely film. That's a really good story about what happens on the jurors' room on a murder trial. So that was fantastic. But that's fantastic not because it's a racially indicative film. It's just an interesting story about how one man can change everyone's opinion in the jury. So there's lots happening in these films which make them classic. They just happen to involve racial stereotypes or period pieces that happened during these times. So they're great stories as is. And that's why I had to read To Kill a Mockingbird in school. I don't know if that was for everyone else, but I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure, yeah, in North America at least. I don't know about South America or Europe, but I'm sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think.
Yeah. So whatever, not necessarily every education system is the same, but these were pretty classic growing up for me. And this film, I remember watching this film in grade school as well.
It's about justice.
Yeah. I remember reading the book, watching the film, and then we also watched Charlie and the Chocolate Factory every year for something.
Kind of like the backdrop was racism. Like the backdrop was that era in time, but the story revolved around justice and when to take up the right cause, even though it's socially unacceptable or socially frowned upon.
Yeah, so again,
that's why Atticus was a hero.
Even if this was the only way to communicate these ideas and people were racially motivated that way, that would have been a great thing. People would go, I never thought of it that way. Justice really is blind. We should think that way. And that's a good message. I think that's a good thing.
Then why are you doing
Yeah, it is a good message.
For a number of reasons. The main one is that if I didn't, I couldn't hold my head up in town.
In the 1962 film adaptation of Harper Lee's To Kill a Mockingbird, Southern white lawyer Atticus Finch attempts to save a falsely accused black man from conviction in the 30s.
I've been appointed to defend Tom Robinson. Now that he's been charged, that's what I intend to do.
And while Atticus is unsuccessful, his bravery makes him a hero to the black community and a role model to his daughter.
Miss Jean Louise, stand up. Your father's passing.
As admirable as much of their writing and ideas were for the time, staples of American film and literature like To Kill a Mockingbird helped to establish a norm of stories about black history being told through the lens of noble white protagonists. In the late 80s through the 2000s, acclaimed movie...
Okay, so let's say that this was the seminal work that allowed other writers to say, hey, I can write a story like that. What's wrong with that? Again, this is a good thing. This is nothing wrong with having a hero character who happens to be white trying to help other people who are discriminated against. I'm not seeing...
You can do
quite literally...
You can make the lawyer be Asian.
You quite literally have a quote saying it's no longer enough to not be racist. You have to do something about it. You literally have characters who are going out there and doing something about it, and you're still not fucking happy.
I mean, no one's running out to become a lawyer as a result of watching that show or other stories like it, but you can appreciate the sentiment to think along those lines if such a scenario were to happen to you. And I think that's plenty to change your behavior, to see someone of certain noble mentality or of a certain station of job, to say, like a lawyer, or I don't know if you want to consider politicians these days of a noble standing, but to say, hey, they're fighting for something. This is enough to me to think a certain way. And nowadays, it's pretty easy to say, yeah, we should stand up for what we believe in, because we've gone through all this crap. We've gone through 40 years or 50 years of all this nonsense that our forefathers fought for and has now become part of our society. So I want to see where the real discrimination problems exist and then address that as a problem in a story to say, oh, well, yeah, having a white character as a hero is not that believable nowadays in a contemporary setting because we're so diverse or whatever. So that would be a good argument. Not like, oh, these white savior stories from 30 years ago where what was it? I can't remember the female white ladies who are teachers trying to educate the black people of Harlem how to behave well, or how to be taught high school English or whatever. It's like, oh no, that's so inaccurate. That's such insulting to black people. It's like, is it? Nowadays, probably not. I think we've accepted people of different backgrounds being our teachers. I think, especially from 2020, exactly. I think many people would like to go back to school and actually have a teacher to talk to. So,
Movies like Mississippi Burning, Glory, and Amistad all articulated inspirational messages of freedom and equality.
The natural state of mankind is instead, and I know this
So
is a
what's the
controversial
problem?
idea.
See, Anthony Hopkins is way too white, so you can't have him address a legislature or I don't know, some judicial hearing. It just wouldn't work. You have to have a black guy go up there and talk about black people, I guess.
Yeah, only if the races match.
I mean, it's a period piece, so
I know, amazing. And period pieces have
period
white guys in charge. My God, what's going on?
Freedom.
But they did so while foregrounding the experiences and hardships of white main characters.
Don't you have the whole world to change?
That's right, and I'm changing.
2011's The Help, which explores racial tensions between black domestic workers and their white employers during the civil rights movement, chooses as a protagonist not the maids, but the young white woman who wants to write a book about them.
I'd really like to interview you, Aileen. I know it's scary.
The volume and popularity of white savior films to this day shows how committed our culture remains to centering white characters in stories about civil rights, black history, and racism. These movies, usually made by white writers and directors, continue to receive top awards over films depicting the same themes made by black filmmakers.
the black Klansman is not.
Somebody's driving somebody loose.
So the most fundamental issue is that white creators continue to dominate.
Wait a second. Is the argument here they don't get enough awards? Is that the problem?
The Black Klansman gets some awards, I think, and also it's not even from white creators. It's from a black man.
Let me ask this. Okay, all these movies with the white savior lady going to teach these underprivileged kids. Who wrote these movies? Were they men? Or were they white women who wrote these movies?
Oh dear, that's a good question.
I mean, the one with the Emma Stone being.
I don't know, but if they feel like stories that were written by women, and probably specifically white women. That would be a little interesting factoid to uncover.
So that's what I'm going to say, because the one with Emma Stone being the teacher looks like a movie based on a book, on a biography.
Yeah, even The Color Purple was based off a book with Whoopi Goldberg. So, I mean, these are again are period pieces for a specific reason. They're made for a particular audience, and I think the critics of these movies, I don't know what Spike Lee has to say about this or what have you, are in the wrong genre. Like they're thinking about, oh, this is not representative of my race, or why don't we have enough black people overcoming the trials and tribulations of prejudice? It's like, well, their stories are out there like that too. There's all kinds of movies and sitcoms for black people and as well as white people and Asian people, people from Hong Kong, people from Singapore. They have dramas for South America. I know that because one of my uncles watches a lot of those. He loves them. So maybe this is not the right thing for those critics. I think they're missing the point here. And
I think they are too.
If I were to watch a drama like a period drama from Asia or China, I'd be lost. I'd be like, what's going on? Why are all these people in the 1600s or whatever running around trying to fight the emperor? Like, what is going on? Like, I'd be lost. So there's a disconnect between the audience, I think, and the subject material and what they expect. And I don't think that's because the film is bad. I think because they have their own bias of what they actually want to see. They want to see the black hero dude or the secondary black dude get more lines or save the day or like, I don't know, maybe what was that? The Robin Hood Men and Thieves when Azim, who's the character, Morgan Freeman, he should have killed more white guys. No. He should have saved Robin Hood more times than just the ending.
Oh yeah, the Robin Hood.
Yeah.
There's a new movie with Hood and Jamie Foxx being the guy who trains him. I don't know how he gets on Europe.
Oh,
and he looks like a modern guy with a jacket.
Really poorly received Robin Hood, more modern Robin Hood, where he trains Robin Hood to be good. Yeah, that was marketed like crazy, but no one went to go see it. So
Yeah, it's I don't know how he gets on Europe because he had some tribal things on his nose and it appears to be a sub-Saharan African thing.
Really? Interesting. Okay. Well, I always thought the depiction of Morgan Freeman as a was a Palestinian Moorish guy was a bit off, but it was Morgan Freeman. You're like, that's fine. It's good.
It's still Morgan Freeman.
I remember there's a little girl in that film who was like, why did God paint you? And he starts laughing and he's like, well, Allah loves variety in the world or something like that. It was like, this is a great line.
Yeah, I like that movie. That was good.
It
was with Kevin Costner as Robin Hood.
Yeah, it was kind of corny because at the time I think Ghostbusters 2 was still in theaters. And, I was like, what should we watch? We just watched them all because that's what you do in the 80s. You just watched everything. And it was one of those films where like there was a big sound, like big booming soundtrack, and there's all these epic moments, and it was kind of corny, honestly. But
I will try to watch this movie.
Robin Hood Prince of Thieves, yeah, it was pretty corny, but it's it was fun to watch. It was a fun, silly movie.
Conversation where it's vital that black voices are featured most of all.
If I was a Negro, I'd probably think the same way they do. If you were a Negro, nobody would give a damn what you thought.
Meanwhile, these movies can frequently lack three-dimensionality in their portraits of black and POC characters.
I love me some fried chicken.
While the white protagonists often get love stories.
How dare a black woman who's a maid, who's a cook and cleaner, talk about fried chicken? How oh my, how stereotypical. Who doesn't love fried chicken? Come on, is there a problem with fried chicken? Mentioning that in a movie in the South, in Louisiana, talking about fried chicken? My God, if you're gonna have a black woman in a movie during the.
Do you guys know the character Joe Carioca from Disney?
Joe Carioca. Let me think. Where is that from?
The parrot from Disney. It's a Disney character.
Okay.
Everyone here in Brazil loves the Joe Carioca. Hell, everyone loves Blanca too.
There's plenty of heroes we have of Disney or Warner Brothers that, like Speedy Gonzalez, that are obviously racially or culturally focused. And I don't see anything inherently wrong with that. Because they're caricatures and because they're anthropomorphic, I think you can get away with things a bit easier. But there's nothing inherently wrong about them. You could even say there's plenty of cartoons, even in the 80s, that were like that, or in the 90s too. But they appealed to someone enough to get a producer to say, yeah, let's spend money on this and get that approved. And if they went on for more than a year or more than one season, people liked them. So it's not so much what the content is about, it's do people want to watch that? Do people want to throw money at that with the advertisements so they can keep going for another season? So I think there's something about giving people what they like, what they're familiar with, and it's for entertainment purposes or this or that. But we're talking about cartoons and stuff for kids. Talking about more adult themes or dramas is another genre with another genre. So period pieces and then drama and then romance and then war stories and then colonialism and whatever. Like you have to know how to do all these genres. So it's tough to get that. That's why I really like period pieces that have murder mystery like Poirot, because it's set in a 1930-ish, 36 world that is frozen there. So everything has to be like that. All the styles, all the technology, the fashion, the language, their opinion of Europe, their opinion of Europeans. Racism was really rampant then. So these are things you want to have as accurate. And that's one of the reasons why you appreciate those stories, because not only did Agatha Christie write for those time periods, but to bring it to life on the screen is even more immaculate. So I would hate for them to take those out. And it doesn't really matter to me that Poirot is Belgian or not French or whatever he wants to say. You want accuracy.
Not French.
Yeah, he's very clear. I am not French, I am Belgian, that sort of thing. So I appreciate that, even though he sounds like very, very much like a Frenchman. So
I uploaded the image of the character that I saw said on the chat.
oh yeah, that's a very like that is not well known in North America. Like that's I would
Yeah, he is a character that Disney himself created, and if you saw the first movie that he appeared, Alô Amigos, he's speaking Portuguese to Donald Duck, who is speaking in English.
Oh wow.
That's on the 40s, okay? On the 40s.
Fun times.
Development, the non-white characters tend to be reduced to their negative experiences.
Never had one before.
What, a room to yourself?
I bet.
Black and POC characters also risk being portrayed as passive in
But that's
their
exactly
own
what
stories.
how SJWs portray them. It's exactly how they portray them as well. They only concentrate on the oppression part, never anything else. So why is it bad when they do it?
Yeah.
On that movie that Sandra Bullock is the main character, her adopted son is he is somewhat he has some mental problems. That's why he's passive. that's not because it's some type of prejudice.
Yeah, I just like the fact that these evil white people just define the POC character as by their horrible experiences. When the SJWs do the exact same thing. If you are a non-white person, you are defined by your so-called oppression. Defined by it. Nothing else exists for you. That's why they say that if you're black, you have to vote Democrat or something like that. That's why that mentality exists.
I still want to know what they consider a good period piece or a good story that addresses racism. I want to know like the best one so we can say, oh, this is what they want. It's like, great. Ask Hollywood to keep making those stories. Why not? That's what you like.
Or make yourselves.
Maybe. They can make it. I don't know because the criteria is all over the place. It's not enough. It's too little. It's like, what is the sweet spot for racism as a story or as a theme or as a setting? Like, what is good for you? And when are you going to be happy with it?
Atlanta is the most praised.
Did you fire her?
In The Help, it is Skeeter's revelation that her childhood maid has been fired that leads her to want to expose racism on behalf of the other black maids in her community, while in reality, black people were eager to tell their own stories and had been doing so since before the abolition of slavery. So this simplified narrative centered on a white woman.
So you want to compare those two dudes to a maid? Okay, let's just go back here.
Community, while in reality, black people were eager to tell their own stories and had been doing so since before the...
So wait a second. Two people who publish their own books or whatever, however they got their stories out, are eager to do so, but because you frame the narrative with the protagonist that's white and had a black babysitter or whatever you want to call the help in that regard, is wrong somehow? I don't.
I mean, if they are doing this since the abolition or even pre-abolition of slavery, why there's a problem?
Well,
I don't know.
see,
promote more of these stories.
Yeah, the issue becomes the narrator or the focus of the story being this white girl who grows up with this nanny of hers who's black and she loses her and now she wants her back. She wants to talk to her about it. And do an interview and become a journalist in that regard and write a book about her. It's like, oh, that's bad because Frederick Douglass wrote a bunch of books about himself. I mean, what is the problem with, like, should we write a bunch of movies about Frederick Douglass's books? Like, what does he want to do here? What's the solution? First off, what's the problem?
Just because of this video, I will see this movie from Emma Stone.
I know. It's like I want to know what's the problem with a white lady growing up and interviewing her black maid. I what's in comparing it to Frederick Douglass? I don't know.
the abolition of slavery. So this simplified narrative centered on a white woman suggests that without Skeeter's bravery, these women would never have encountered the ongoing black struggle for equality.
My boy Treelaw always said we gonna have a writer in the family one day. I guess it's gonna be me.
Focusing primarily on the experiences of white characters also elevates their brushes with racism almost to the point where they're equated with actually being victimized by racism.
I just want to live my life.
In some cases,
and not feel bad.
That was the issue in some of those stories where the community attacks like Atticus Finch or for doing his job. But that's in any sort of conflict of the law where lots of lawyers get attacked. Even the people part of the defense team get attacked. So you're expecting that. That makes it more dramatic. And you can look at the modern times, even nowadays, to people throwing all these, especially with America right now with the whole election fraud, all these people coming forward and affidavits being signed and everyone's attacking the right for believing there's election fraud. Like, these are big stories. So I don't think courtroom drama is ever going away. And I don't think the issue is the lawyer being white.
I mean, these characters are suffering because they have something called empathy. They put themselves on these people and on the people who are suffering, and feel that suffering because they know how they are now seeing how bad it is.
Is anyone else getting kind of the I don't know, kind of a vibe here that they don't really hate these movies because it denigrates the POC character, but that it kind of puts the main character, the white character, in a place of heroism, and they don't like it. They hate white people because they're racist, so they hate the idea of white people looking good in any situation.
I don't
know. That's why you have to have white people looking bad now. So is anyone else getting that vibe where it looks like they're so racist that they just can't stand the idea of a white character playing the hero or looking good when it's one of these sort of drama or period pieces?
I'm trying to think if they had like a black lawyer for Atticus Finch, or this dude's black, or just switch the races around. Is that what they want? Do they want the black male or female going into the white trash neighborhood, teaching all the kids who don't want to learn? Like, is that the story they want? Will that suffice?
I really want to see someone do that, so just to see their reaction.
Yeah, like, who is that? Like, maybe there's an audience for that, but I really don't think they're going to take in a lot of money. I really don't think that's going to be very popular, and I don't know if it's going to be worth the time, because we like to see...
No, it probably won't.
We like to see the people who care, who go out of their way despite all these conflicts, not because it's racial, although maybe some people could see that as an added bonus, but because we like the hero. We like the person struggling, as a story should have multiple forms of struggling and conflict. And it resonates because it's contemporary for the time. I don't know, maybe some of those are during the 90s. Like Erin Brockovich, that was the whole issue about, I guess that's also a white savior complex because she was fighting on behalf of an entire town. And she was an upstart lawyer who never actually was a lawyer at the time. She had to actually study to be one. So, I don't know. I see nothing wrong with these characters being heroes for the people they're fighting for.
And not feel bad about it.
Well, I'm not trying to make you feel bad.
Of course, it's important to note that the white savior...
There he is, the Last Samurai. Wow, they're really they're pulling out everything.
Hey,
I like that movie.
I actually like this movie.
Is he a white savior?
Also, they kind of forget the idea that, especially, it's really highlighted in the Last Samurai. But the white savior thing, it's also coming from the trope of a guy who doesn't know much. So it's usually following around a white savior, quote unquote, like a white hero, who's being immersed into a culture that's foreign to him, and then maybe even foreign to the white audience looking at it. So
it's a good way, to introduce it to the audience themselves.
It's kind of like why Luke Skywalker is so powerful in the original trilogy, Star Wars trilogy, is because he knows nothing, and we learn things as he learns things. So that the white savior, quote unquote, will learn things about the culture he's exploring as we learn things as he learns things.
Yes.
I mean, during this time, during feudal Japan, if you were a foreigner and you was accepted from in their society, you can't go back. They just said, no, you stay here and will not share the secrets of our culture.
Yeah, the Japanese at the time are very, very, very xenophobic. That's what the war kind of exploded on. One of the topics, anyway, sharing the ideas and trade with European powers.
Yeah, they become an empire really fast. They defeated Russia. That in the time was shocking for everyone. I mean, Russia was using catapults during the time, so yeah, not actually.
It sounds like this movie or the story about The Last Samurai is not really the white savior. It's kind of like the fish out of water, and he has to acclimate to the culture and learn how to become a samurai. So
yeah, pretty much.
Yeah,
he's pretty much.
He's like on the side of Imperial Japan, and they're fighting a war against the traditional Japan, basically. Right. And so he kind of learned how to respect it.
He's on the side of traditional Japan, and the Imperial Japan, the Meiji family won this war because I think he lose in the end.
Your trope is not limited to stories about Americans or black people.
Isle of Dogs.
Message coming in. Patching it through.
Oh, I know that movie. It's from the same guy who did the stop motion from the fox that steal food. My brother said it's pretty good. It's on Japan. Only the dogs talk, and the Japanese don't talk at all.
Here is Renault. I think I'm pronouncing that incorrectly, but thanks anyway. The white savior is every SJW trying to speak for minorities. I'm getting the feeling this is what the critics are. Why else would you have problems with these films? With SJWs, it's done malevolently and maliciously. Holy jeez, that's a lot of us's. Has that been mentioned yet? Yeah, we talked about how the critics have to be of some mentality to dislike these films or say they're bad because they're not doing the depiction of blacks properly or as hero characters so much. And I don't know why that's a problem. I'm not grasping it, because if we flip the races and imagine that this was, America was all majority black and the whites were incarcerated or they were in chains or whatever, and we had to go through prejudice for 30, 50 years, and we see Atticus Finch being a black man trying to save a white man or whatever, I'd be like, okay, yeah, it's a guy, he's a lawyer. He's trying to save an innocent man who just happens to be white. And it's a period drama. You're like, great. I wouldn't think of it as a negative or positive light. I would evaluate it for what it is. So if there was an inaccurate depiction of the times, be like, hey, what are all these Asian people in America doing? That wasn't that very prevalent in the 40s or 30s. So that's where we would see our problems.
The British film Lawrence of Arabia, released the same year as To Kill a Mockingbird, similarly centers a white male protagonist in a story of Arabic people's struggle for independence.
Right.
They hope to gain their freedom. They're going to get it.
But that's actually what happened. The Lawrence helped the Berbers and the Arabic tribes to get independence.
See, that sounds like kind of like an Indiana Jones story, but instead of actually hunting for relics, he's trying to make a militia and train these people how to fight through politics and what have you.
They were fighting. They were fighting the Turks. They were fighting another quote-unquote POC type of people.
Yeah, you could argue it's not historically accurate because of, this didn't really happen, or this wasn't too common, or there weren't too many British going around training people of certain backgrounds. It wasn't allowed unless you defected or whatever. Sure, you could argue those points, but it could be a fantasy story in a contemporary setting or in a believable setting of the past. So we can make arguments in those areas.
Lawrence of Arabia actually existed.
Right.
And he helped the Arabic people to get independence.
Right.
Too bad that the British and the French decided to colonize the Arabian Peninsula, but yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with having embellishments. Lots of stories do that. So it's really about your tolerance as a historian and going, well, this didn't really happen that way or this or that. But you could say that with any adaptation, really. So it's not just historical examples, but fictitious examples like Lord of the Rings, things you're very familiar with. So the argument comes down to details and whether or not it's relevant to the narrative.
In Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, Indiana is the only person capable of finding the missing children and a sacred stolen stone of an Indian village.
You could have kept it.
What for? They'd just put it in a museum. It'd be another rock collecting dust.
In Gran Torino, Clint Eastwood's Walt Kowalski.
Yeah, but so what? Again, what's wrong with that? That's like one plot point out of the whole
They're
story.
not really defining the problem, are they?
Well, they're just like focusing on
I
one element.
I don't think they are.
Here's a guy that does a thing. Yes, he does the thing. What's the problem?
He becomes the savior of the Asian family who lives next door while his unapologetic racism.
Isn't that amazing? He's a racist, but he still does something nice.
That's kind of the part of his whole thing.
I like this issue.
You're missing a large part of context here because he's a veteran, and the film's actually about how he gets over his racism.
Exactly.
He's a veteran of I can't remember what.
You know what brings him along? You know what brings him around is he finds a girl. Like a girl comes to him and not like a love interest, but like a girl who comes to him and he's racist to her and everything. But she doesn't care. She still tries to connect with him. So instead of saying, "Oh, you're racist to me, I'm gonna try to cancel you now," she tries to make friends with him. She disregards that and takes the high ground morally because she has the high ground now. And she brings him along anyway. She carries him across anyway. And she connects with him, and she succeeds in the end.
And then, he ends up giving because his family doesn't really care about him. He ends up giving his car to, what was it, the lad?
I think so. His Gran Torino.
I mean, isn't that an inspiring story? Because he overcome his prejudice against the Asian family. And everyone, even black people, can take this as a lesson to I need to overcome my prejudice and my hate.
Gran Torino is one of those movies. It's like instead of getting mad at this guy being racist to you, instead of instantly trying to demonize him and everything, why not just slug off the racism? Why not just brush off the insults and try to connect with him, and maybe you'll succeed? That's what Gran Torino is kind of about.
It's been quite a while since I watched this, but this isn't even a film about prejudice against them for being Asian. It's a protagonist who is racist. The society, I don't think, is portrayed as racist, but the main problem is a gang who's threatening the family. And again, as I mentioned before, he sets himself up to be shot by the gang, so they'll be arrested for murder.
Yeah, and it kind of really plays on the idea that you get like a white supremacy guy and one of these black supremacy guys. And you put them in a room together, and after a while, they're going to have to get along probably because they probably find some common interest. You put two of these guys who hate each other in a room, they will eventually probably get along eventually.
Also, yeah, it was mentioned. I couldn't remember what war it was, but yeah, it was the Korean War. So he ends up finding their South Korean, which was the people he was fighting for. I want to say it had been a long time since I watched the film.
Is dismissed as a forgivable personality quirk or even played for laughs.
How you doing, Martin, you crazy Italian prick?
Yeah, he gets over it.
Now that's how guys talk to one another. They do?
Even in movies based on true stories, filmmakers often engage in significant historical...
That's not racist, though. Is it?
I don't know.
Calling someone an Italian prick.
That's more nationality. That's more a joke based on nationality, or even banter based on nationality.
Yeah,
if someone came up to me and said, "Hey, what English prat? How's it going?" I'd say, "All right, fucker."
Yeah, basically. I thought that's how people talk to each other in normal everyday life. It's outside of your weird sanitized safe space is how normal people talk to each other. Sorry.
Maybe they need more beers in their life to actually have a good time.
I think beer is a universal unifier. I think.
Go to a bar, buy someone a beer, call them a prick.
Here in Brazil, everyone who is foreign would be called gringo. Said, "Hey, you're gringo. What are you doing?"
Right. I think that was a gaijin in Japan, kind of a racial slur.
The outsider.
Yeah, it's just if you're at a bar and you're having a beer and you're sitting next to someone, you get to know the guy. Oh, you're some crazy Canadian. Oh, hey, how's it going? Eh? Like all these stupid things. Like, yeah, it's how it goes.
Omission or rewrites in order to frame the material around a heroic arc for a white character. 2007's Freedom Writers recast the Latina Erin Gruwell as a white woman.
White people always wanting their respect like they deserve it for free.
More recently, 2016's Hidden Figures invents a scene in which a fictional white boss, who's a composite of real NASA
fuck was that film? White people
courageously
expect
tears down a woman's bathroom sign.
What?
Here at NASA, we all pay the same color.
When the film's director, Theodore Melfi, justified this addition by saying there needs to be white people doing the right thing, his words revealed that the assumption underlying earlier civil rights movies, that white audiences can only relate to movies with white characters, is...
Okay, wait a second there. I think...
But then you're also making the... SJW is constantly making the assumption that black people and minorities cannot relate to white characters.
When there are, in fact,
funny.
Plenty of films and movies and TV shows and this and that for the black audience, with more black dialogue, with more black scenarios, more white scenarios, etc., etc. So there's something for everyone. But that doesn't mean we can't identify with them. Just because I watched, All in the Family? I could barely identify with a bigot 70s guy. But I understand the value of the story the same way I could identify with Family Matters or Full House or whatever sitcoms of the 90s, as corny as they were. So it's not because they're this or that color. I remember watching Different Strokes, The A-Team, like all sorts of bizarre shows in the 80s and 90s where the plots were different, the characters, their settings were... I can't relate to a mercenary gang. Like, I have no idea how Mr. T and Murdoch and whatever fits in together. But it was fun to watch, the drama that ensued. So I don't think identifying is the problem here. I think it's understanding the stories and the characters enough to wrap your brain around, okay, this is what's going on. This is what the story is about. This is what the drama is about. This is what the character wants. And I don't think I need to know the ins and outs, or I have to have lived the ins and outs of what it means to be a little black boy growing up in Toronto or some other part of North America. I don't think that really changes my outlook a whole lot. That I can't go, what's going on with Full House? Is that 3 guys who don't have a wife and they're raising children? Like, how does that work? Oh, there's a laugh track. Oh, it's a comedy. Oh, yeah. I think I can clue in on that.
And everybody here likes Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Yeah, like imagine Frasier. Who here is a psychiatrist who has a psychiatrist brother who's extremely pretentious and
I imagine like fewer people than the number of people who actually like Frasier.
Oh yeah,
pretty sure more people like Frasier than there are weird, neurotic, pompous psychiatrists.
Right.
With radio shows.
Very super popular show. Same with Seinfeld. Same with all these other quirky shows that were just goofy and weird and strange. But they had drama. They had comedy. They had characters of various backgrounds and dispositions. What was that one with all the gay guys? I can't remember what it was called. Damn it. Very popular. They actually brought it back. What was that show called? Will and Grace. Very popular show. I could barely relate to those characters. But you see how the comedy worked. You understood it. And you say, oh, that's the point of the movie or the show. That's what this sitcom's about. It's there to make you laugh. And all the gay jokes are for fun. It's good stuff. And it worked. And it resonated, even though I didn't grow up as a gay boy and had gay friends and this and that. It's like, wow. Maybe the writing was actually funny and entertaining.
Very much alike. Some of the people white savior films are based on have even criticized them for being misleading or oversimplified. Abilene Cooper, a black woman who worked for the family of the author of The Help, is suing the author for using and distorting her likeness without her permission in a way she says is embarrassing. And the real-life family of Dr. Don Shirley has condemned Green Book's portrayal of him as completely estranged from both his family and black culture.
Who is this?
Okay, well, that's just the getting permission from this or that person. It has nothing to do with the quality or the storytelling, because you can tell a fictional element of a real-life example to embellish things or to make them work better dramatically. I understand that. So it's the same with getting permission from an idea that another writer came up with. Say, can I do this in my story? Is this okay with you? Do I have to pay you royalties, etc.? So that's all this is just getting permission.
Who?
Yeah, it's
On the
it's
radio.
not.
Well, Richard.
To a degree that the movie even suggests he requires the help of his white driver to connect with his blackness at all.
I live on the streets. You sit on a throne.
Okay, Little Richard, I don't know if you guys remember the story, but Little Richard was a very specific kind of musician, whereas the guy in this story is also a very specific kind of musician. So it would be strange that one style musician didn't know another style musician, but it wouldn't be impossible that because they live in the classical world, they wouldn't know the pop rock world or whatever, or the R&B world.
So yeah, my world is way more blacker than yours.
Most fundamentally, Green Book reduces Shirley's life to supporting
Quentin
material
Tarantino right
for a
there.
narrative about a
Yeah.
racist driver, when the life story of this queer black composer would by all accounts have made for a remarkable and more unusual movie on its own.
He holds doctorates in psych.
Okay, so this is strange because now they're saying the driving Miss Daisy pattern of having your white driver or black driver is partially the focus. I don't know exactly what the dynamic here with these two characters are. They're saying if you eliminate the driver and just focus purely on the black dude and his story, therefore something, therefore better story. I would argue any element which generates conflict with the main characters, whether it's a one protagonist or two protagonists, or if you want to consider the white driver the antagonist, that's a good thing. You want to personify your conflict as much as possible. So just having him as an element in a story that focuses on the black dude being a pianist might not work as well. It might be boring. It might just be a documentary then. I don't know. So these are interesting questions because this would be ripe for a creative writing class to take apart and go, okay, what's happening in this scene? How much conflict is there? What's the real conflict? What are you striving for at the end? That would be interesting to break apart, but it's very technical though.
I mean, the people forget too that the actors accepted to do this role, so they didn't see nothing wrong on these movies.
Well, the actors are one thing. I don't think that's really a problem. I think anyone would be thrilled to star in a film in any capacity. I think it's the audience going, or this particularly sensitive audience going, oh, the black guy is not the focus, or he's not the main story here. There's also the white driver who's blacker than he is because he knows all this other music that this guy doesn't. Like, that's not a huge problem. It's ironic, actually. So I think the guy who's...
Yeah, it isn't a huge problem.
Yeah, I think the guy who's suing, the story depicted him as not knowing music and he didn't know who Little Richard was. I was like, well, of course I know who Little Richard was. Like, well, fine. That's something to talk about in regards to the accuracy of the story.
Music and liturgical arts. And he has performed at the White House twice in the past 14 months.
Who are these kids? Rejects from hell?
One of the most central problems with white savior narratives is that while we know racism to be deeply systemic, these movies often explore it solely on the individual level.
You threaten my son.
See, that's how stories work generally. You have an individual character, and you see their trials and tribulations. What exact kind of story? Do they want ensemble casts, like multiple, like dozens and dozens of characters that you don't have time to develop, and they work as a community?
Yeah, that's what I'm going to ask. How you do a story with a collective?
I mean, it's possible, but it's not going to work as effectively as a single character because you have too many moving parts. Unless you want a mini-series, and each episode is like this character, then that character, and this character. It could work. I've seen that, what was it? It was a show called Boomtown, where each episode had sections, and it would jump between those characters. It would just say, like, Detective this guy, and they would have his like 10-minute bit, and they would jump to the lawyer character, and then the mayor character, etc., etc. So you can tell stories like that, but it takes a long time, multiple seasons, multiple characters, lots of drama. So the style is very dynamic and difficult. So within a movie, you got to be very focused. You can't waste time bouncing around characters. It's not going to work very well.
Threaten me. In 1957's 12 Angry Men, as one white juror tries to convince his peers to act fairly in the case of a young man of color accused of murder.
Boy, oh boy, there's always one.
The film's focus is on each of the white men trying to confront his own personal prejudice.
Yeah, because they're the guys carrying the story along.
That's what the
That's
story is about.
That's what the story is about. What else is it supposed to be about?
What is wrong with that?
And the ironic thing is, they change their mind at the end, and they end up being wrong. It's a brilliant scenario of how this guy manages to start this chain of thinking to get this other guy off, and he ends up being the criminal anyway. He's the guy who did the deed. It's such a wonderful film. I think like twists like that.
If you saw as a movie about justice, I think it works more than doing the white savior trope.
Oh, exactly, for sure. Because he's not a savior. He's a conspirator. He has this crazy idea. This guy didn't do it, and he manages to have a shadow of a doubt to throw it in there to cause people's minds to change. It's a brilliant movie for its time, especially.
You want to side because you personally want it, not because of the facts.
In The Help, most of the racism we see takes the form of prejudiced remarks between white individuals.
All that talking there today. I'm sorry you had to hear that.
The problem with the individual focus of the white savior trope is perhaps best illustrated in two particular subgenres of this story: the white savior sports movie and the white savior education movie.
All the poems you taught us say you can't give in. You can't give up. Well, we ain't giving you up.
A number of iconic sports movies feature white coaches rehabilitating
Cool Runnings, really? Okay. John Candy, I think. Is that? Oh, jeez.
black sports teams to lead them to victory.
What kind of statement are you trying to make by playing so many colors?
Sir, I'm a basketball coach who don't make statements.
I think the moment you have a black person in your film, it's a white savior film to these people.
Actually, I chose Wilson because of the integration program. I think what's
If it has a
really
white
exciting,
protagonist.
An energetic white teacher is frequently inspired to clean up a black school or change the lives of students for the better, often against the advice of more prejudiced or cynical members of the community.
Don't you think that finishing high school will be valuable to their future?
That's not in their future.
Both of these subgenres can depict compelling and inspirational Black and POC characters, and they might feature real racial violence and trauma experienced by their Black characters. Still, they rarely spend much time investigating the underlying systemic structures that lead to these characters being disenfranchised, underserved, and victimized in the first place.
Maybe because the story isn't about that, whatever that even is. How do you tell a story about systemic structures in a movie? Like, how does that come about? Like, is it a documentary? Like, what is it?
It's looking at these things which are real and saying, hey, look, this is how you can improve your lives. We can change things for the better. Or at least I haven't seen these films, so that's what I'm interpreting it as.
This is some really bad propaganda they're trying to argue it with, saying there are systemic problems with racism in X community or X country, but none of the films talk about that. And you're like, well, why do you think that is? Maybe it's a very complex topic and no one knows how to turn that into a film. Maybe the problem doesn't even exist in that fashion. I'm beginning to think it's more of the latter. Because if it was a huge, obvious problem, a good writer would be like, hey, this is really pertinent. We can really make a lot of money off this, talking about this issue, and this is how we do it. Because I don't think that's a real thing. I still have not actually seen an actual, systematic or systemic problem with an organization regarding race or this or that, and saying, hey, let's personify that in this dirty cop or this nice black man or black boy who's going to be victimized by the judicial system because he's black. Or like, let's do that. That would be great. You would get all this fanfare. Everyone would love you for telling this story that no one else has told yet. Because if it existed, they would have said, here is the achievement we've been looking for. Here is Malcolm X, or here is whatever film that some guy wrote or made. And we can hold up and say, look at this film. This is how it's done. This is the problem. If we all watch this film and understand what it's trying to show us, the problems with the judicial system or the police system or this or that, it's like, oh, thank you, Spike Lee. Thank you, whoever made this. Now I know. And we haven't seen that yet. They're just criticizing a thing for not having a thing. You don't have this thing in your film.
I mean, the Black Klansman is kind of like that, but even then, it's not focused on this.
Yeah, it would be a boring ass film if they just talked about systemic racism or whatever thing they're saying is the problem. There has to be a character going through an arc. There has to be realized conflict that makes sense. It's not a difficult concept. So maybe the movie format is not the right thing for your philosophy. Maybe you need maybe you need an essay, like a TED Talk.
I think a book is better to do this, because they can do Robert Heinlein did with Starship Troopers. Starship Troopers have all the basis for how the system works, and they can do that with a good story, of course, how, quote unquote, it works in real life.
If they were to do that with a satirical slant, I can guarantee you they would not be very happy. If they satirize the
message coming in, patching it through,
the supposed victimization of disenfranchised students in Harlem, or pick a suburb of New York.
That's the student thing. I remember I've seen very similar TV shows where it's about kids who misbehave, who are very disenfranchised, that they're not doing well in school, about rehabilitating them into school, and that's something you mainly see on things like children's programs like CBBC. I remember, I think it was 4 O'Clock Club, which is about a detention club and a guy trying to rehabilitate the kids so that they get a better education for themselves. And from what it sounds very similar to that. And it's about a teacher who's black, and his little brother, and his teacher ended up flunking school because he thought he was going to be a rapper, and it turned out his rapping dreams never came to fruition. And then he went back to school, he became a teacher, and then he started talking to these kids saying, hey, look, you can do better, education is important, blah, 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 blah. And you have all the high school stereotypes, of course.
Here's Spielman.
Yep. There is a Samuel Jackson movie too, in the same vein, called Coach. He's a trainer. He's trying to lift up this basketball team with with problematic teams that are going through problems. They don't have a good grade. I only watched some parts, but yeah, it exists.
Here is Spielman. Thank you, sir. Systemic structure of the movie. I don't know. I just don't think a movie like that would even work. It's more of a social science theory than it is an actual proof. People always talk about systemic racism in the courts or the education system or this or that. And it's like, we need to see some proof. We need to see what exactly it is you're talking about. And even if it does exist, can you turn that into a story? Can that work? I think if it did exist and was actually a real thing, that would have been a series of films for a while now. So I haven't seen those. Maybe I'm just not as sensitive to other people. I'm not aware of these films. But at least these guys who made a 21-minute video who brought up the topic would have been able to point one out. So
the league never wanted you to play this game, but you showed up.
There are a lot of people who live in your neighborhood who choose not to get on that bus. What do they choose to do? They choose to go out and sell drugs. They choose to go out and kill people.
And the result is that audiences usually aren't presented with concrete ideas for structural change, but instead are left with vague messages.
It seems to me like it's just general kids misbehaving.
And the result is that audiences usually aren't presented with concrete ideas for structural change, but instead are left with vague messages.
It's talking less about racism and talking more about how kids can have better choices in their life to affect their future. I don't know where racism comes into it other than that these people happen to be black, or at least some of them are.
See, this is where
they have white people there.
Yeah, the lens that this person's using to criticize these specifically two films. I don't know the one about the teacher, but it seems as if Keanu here is just being a teacher or a coach for baseball, and the kids just want to play baseball and have a good time, and they're pretty good at it. That's a pretty typical story. You have a bunch of kids who want to do a thing. They're not very good at it, but they need a coach to set them on the path, and they're like, no, we're really passionate about our thing, and we're gonna do all the things you want us to do, coach. And okay, got to show up for practice, and they do everything, and they win the championship or this or that. It's like, yeah, that's a great story. That happens to involve people of different backgrounds. Like, wow, that's nothing. It's nothing new, but it doesn't have to be a racial thing unless they delve into those characters for some reason, which would be multiple stories being told, which would be very complicated. So they have to tell a story on an individual level, with individual characters coming to terms with their own conflict.
Unity and kindness were made to feel that complicated, deeply entrenched problems can be fixed by an individual who simply cares enough.
There are no victims in this classroom.
I don't know. I would tend to agree. I think all it takes is one good teacher or one nice, caring person to change the way you think. I think that's all it takes.
Yeah.
And it's kind of ultimately what a lot of these movies are about. It's just this one teacher comes in who changes everything for these kids. Usually underprivileged or kids who don't actually care about school. It's kind of the usual dropout types. And then the teacher comes in and teaches them a new way of thinking or gives them reignites their enthusiasm for learning.
Yeah, you're right. That's all these films are. They don't have to be anything more or try to be some lesson on this complex structural element of racism that may or may not exist yet. I don't, again, we haven't seen a film like that, probably because the element doesn't exist. Because if it did, I can bet your bottom dollar there'd be a teacher out there or there'd be a writer out there who'd want to exploit that theme and make millions and millions of dollars. So, I don't know. Maybe someone can crack the code for systemic racism in education or whatever in America and tell a very dramatic story and how to fix the problem. I don't know. That'd be amazing. But, I don't think it's real.
Why do you care anyway? You just here for the money? Because I make a choice to care, and honey, the money ain't that good.
The hyper-focus on racism at the individual level also creates the illusion of good and bad white people who either choose to be racist or choose not to be.
Wait a second. the hyper focus of racism makes people that are white good and bad. Isn't that anyone who's racist good and bad? Why would you focus your racism?
We believe that this type of people are bad people.
Yeah, why would you say it's not about the individual? Why would you focus on the group? What would be the point of, here's a community, they're all racist. Oh, that's a bad community. Wow, great story. Give me an individual, give me a villain, give me an antagonist who says racist and does racist things, who's victimizing people because he hates that they're different than they are. Give me that character. Don't give me a group of people. That's useless. What are you going to do with that in a story? Like a tribe from, I don't know, Malta or some, I don't know, group of modern Europeans who are very strict on immigration, who don't want anyone to come into their country or something? Like, is that what you want? A story about that? But then you still have to focus on the protagonist as an individual. This is bizarre. Hyper-focus. You should be hyper-focused in a story. That's what you do with protagonists. They're personifications of your conflicts.
Yeah, it was pretty weird.
It's a weird take on these things. It was
pretty weird.
Guilt thing? This oversimplified framing offers an easy scapegoat for white audiences, while handing them an admirable, non-racist white figure they can relate to.
I don't need y'all to.
Why is that a problem, actually?
How is that bad?
I don't see a problem.
There's a non-racist white guy just like me. Wow. How is that bad?
I mean, I can see the movie and empathize with the main protagonist too.
I would bet a lot of people these days aren't racist, or if they are, it's in a very minor way that's very subjective. So it would be like a preferential thing. Like, I like dating certain girls of a certain background just because that's how I grew up. I mean, you could technically argue that's racist, but that's just your preference. So I don't see that as a bad form of racism, as just your thing. That's your cup of tea, as we like to say. So I don't see how it's wrong to have a white or black protagonist who happens to be good. That sounds pretty normal to me. There's lots of nice people out there. I would like to argue many people right now are pretty nice. And
if they don't like this stuff because they are themselves racist, but against white people.
That's what it feels like. There's something weird going on with this argument. Like, there's the white lady who's not racist to black people gives them a scapegoat. Like, to what? Why would we even watch a film like that if we were racist? Like, this is boring. I don't think like this. This bitch is a white a black person hugger, or whatever you want to think of negatively. You know, something like along those lines. No one would watch that film if they thought that way. It's just silly. So if you think because people who...
Yeah, it's pretty silly.
Yeah, if some people are inherently racist, they wouldn't even bother watching these shows. But as we all know, these shows are there to make you feel good at the end of the film. Say, oh, everyone got along together. You know, maybe you shouldn't save everyone. Maybe you shouldn't teach everyone. But they came together as a class, and they graduated from their grade or their school. And who knows what the future has in store. Like, that's a hopeful message. What kind of message would you want at the end of your film? Everyone fails and they kill each other? Like, what do you want out of your film that's about racism there, critic?
My choices, all right? But I do ask that you respect them.
Another key feature of the white savior narrative is that it tends to be set in the past. This allows viewers to comfortably look back on how far we've come from this period setting when prejudice was more egregious and overt.
They carry different diseases than we do.
And it avoids making white viewers feel excessively implicated in the ongoing racism of the society they're still a part of.
Why would they be feeling implicated in general? If it's in the...
Unless you're actually saying it is them, then they wouldn't be implicated.
She's implying the people who are white, who are watching these period pieces, are racist. And because they're period pieces, they're not going to feel guilty because it's happening in the past. Which implies that these people like us or whatever nowadays have some sort of white guilt from something that happened 30, 40 years ago, and therefore won't feel white guilt because they're
Message
watching
coming
it?
in. Patching it through.
Ugh.
It's really dumb. It's really dumb.
It's implying way too much and insinuating that white audience members are feeling negative emotions because they're bad. They're bad audience members. Like, okay. Joe Crazy, is this chick trying to say that it's impossible for a white person to be a decent human being? I think the argument is all the white people in North America have internalized racism. I think that's the
internalized something.
Yeah, this subconscious thing just for the virtue of being born.
Patching it through.
Therefore, we're bad, or they are bad. It's crazy. I'm imagining this is impossible for minorities to not have any racial feelings or ideas of ethnicity that, oh, maybe we shouldn't, have too many people in our culture or whatever. I don't know. Maybe. I just, this is getting a bit awkward with her arguments.
The thing is, if they portray, they've tried to portray racism in the current day, and it's always very inaccurate. It's always extremely exaggerated, very unrealistic, and people can very easily say, well, no, that's plainly untrue. And it's trying to implicate...
Yeah, it's pretty cartoonish.
It's trying to implicate, usually, all white people. All white people are X, Y, and Z, and it just isn't true. You can say this about the past, because in the past, generally, there were these widespread beliefs of actually it being okay to be racist, because obviously there were times in Britain and America and many other countries, even Africa and South Africa, that it was acceptable, like slavery was fine. And now that's just a thing which people don't believe in anymore. It's very rare you'll ever find a defense for slavery ever at all.
I would still find it very strange if there was let's say there is this audience who's white and racist and whatever. Would they even stay and watch this film? I would say no, they wouldn't care, because it wouldn't have the same sentiments that they have, nor would the film change their mind. So
if you're saying "fuck you," you're racist, then they're like, "Oh, fine, I'm not going to watch this film then. Fuck you."
Well, that's a direct accusation. I'm talking like if there was an actual person who sat down to watch this film who was racist, they wouldn't care, because it'd be like, I don't believe in this. I'll just go do something else. So whatever lesson the film is trying to impart won't hit home because they don't believe in the message. It's just like they wouldn't sit through this film. They'd be like, this is crap. I don't like seeing a story about black people or white people or whatever. It's not their thing. And to me, that's fine. They could have whatever mentality they like, because there's always some other film, there's always some other story out there.
Oh, yeah, when you get a film about racism or a story about racism, it'll be another Life is Strange fucking 2.
What happened there?
Oh, Life is Strange 2 is...
Is it a racist? I thought it was a sexuality story, not a racist story.
No, Life is Strange is sexuality, but oh boy, Life is Strange 2 sure is about racisms.
Oh dear. What does the guy control
Devil,
time?
do you remember the exact quote?
Well, I didn't see LitDev's playthrough, but I'm assuming that there's some supernatural power. What was it again?
Telekinesis.
Telekinesis.
So like he can move things with his mind.
Oh dear.
But there are many moments, like for instance, in the first episode, after your father is shot by the police, and then later on in the story, there's a moment. It's also really a stupid reason as well. And there's a moment. Oh yeah, you're running because no one will believe you, and it's very much inferred it's because it's racist. And you get kidnapped by a white Trump supporter. He references the wall and ice, and I think couple other things.
Oh boy!
But yeah, that's what you end up getting when you try to tell a story today with SJWs about racism.
Okay, and they're all from a French developer. That's fantastic. Okay.
And then it's
was black.
They make the statement of like, "Oh, it's crazy days we live. It's crazy days we live in. The world's gone mad." Blah 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 blah. And that's when we get Quash. Quash was the name given to the guy that looks like Quentin and Vosh put together. And it's absolutely hilarious.
Okay. Oh boy. Okay, here's Hassar Zwe, thank you. The hyper-focus of black racism on an individual, not systemic basis creates the impression that not all blacks are racist. Joe Biden. Thank you, Joe. That was special.
No idea if that's true or not, if he actually said that. But okay.
No, I think that's a bit too complex for Mr. Biden.
It's a joke. I think it's just a joke.
I wish he did, so I can actually hear him say the words in a concrete, coherent manner. That's humanly possible under his.
It would come up as the high focus of black racism. It does not institute a systemic basis impression of black folk or the white.
Yay, America!
Yeah, he would say that. He would say in that way.
Yeah. And LitDev had to go, but that's okay. He's probably suffered enough for talking about this topic. So thanks, LitDev, for being on. Let's keep on going.
Aren't you the machine?
You're saying I'm the machine?
Yeah, you white, you part of the school.
Writer Teju Cole, who coined the term white savior industrial complex to describe white-centered intervention in the African continent, describes
All right, this is outside of the realm of literary fiction, but we're just going to let this fly. I have nothing to say about this.
White savior is a big emotional moment that validates privilege. In other words, the myth of the white
Why
savior
do they
is that
see
in showing
media as a platform for politics? Why can't it just be a media for fucking storytelling? Telling a fucking story. That's what it is. That's the point of a story. The point of a film is to convey a story. A story is not your fucking political message where you get to stand on a soapbox. It's for people to tell a tale of something fictional or sometimes something that really did happen, and people to be, enjoy this tale as it's told masterfully, and to be immersed into this story and world which is being created for us to enjoy.
You know what? Whenever we talk about or someone references Dances with Wolves, it reminds me of that other film called The Last of the Mohicans. And I recall people, Native Americans, I can't remember which tribe it was exactly, but they said the depiction of the Native Americans in that film was the best representative because of how violent and brutal they were, how warlike they were, how they killed people, and the weapons they used and all these techniques, which I found very funny because usually we think of, the Native Americans being oppressed and they're driven out of their homes and this and that. It's like, no, this film gets it right. We were brutal. We slaughtered each other. We killed each other viciously. It's like, yeah, you did. So
there's a lot of great areas in that time period.
Yeah,
it's not black and white.
Everyone was trying to take power and take land and et cetera, et cetera. So that's colonialism and tribes fighting each other. Those are pretty brutal times. So I like the fact that the stories from people who are actually part of a tribe or had ancestors said, yeah, the stories are really brutal. That's good. That's how it was.
Compassion to a non-white person, white people can absolve themselves of their privilege.
Let's get the fuck out of here.
In the end, while the white savior is positioned as relatively selfless, the resolution almost certainly involves them being rewarded with some sort of personal fulfillment.
He's been given a sword, and that's out of... Oh, no. He's not giving him the sword. The sword is being given to the emperor, if I remember correctly. That's what kind of reward?
He lost.
They're all dead. in The Last Samurai. They're dead.
He lost the war.
They lost. They got their asses kicked. And then it's highly inferred that he killed himself.
What a gift, huh? Here's a
So much fulfillment as he failed and then decided to end his life as no one ever saw him again.
Helping these kids make sense of their lives. Everything about my life makes sense to me.
This trend in white savior films echoes the
Whoa, that was
Avatar, the greatest white savior film.
That was
Avatar is human savior. It's the human savior complex.
That's it. That's the human savior
Helping
complex.
these kids make sense of their lives. Everything about my life makes sense to me.
This trend.
So, this is where they find out that what's his name was an avatar for this other body.
And
yes, it's the end of the movie.
And look, the film itself is more about trying to help people in their lives rather than actual fucking racism. Because she's not talking about racism. She's like trying to help people.
Trend in white savior films echoes the magical Negro trope, which has long been criticized for treating black characters like counselors in the white character's journey to self-actualization.
See, I actually like this trope because it treats the secondary character as this morally high-standing fellow who's there to teach the protagonist what's right and wrong. That is a standard trope, whether it's a magical Negro or the wise old man or the seductress or whatever, that they're going to give you a moral and ethic that you need to learn to adapt into your life in order to grow and change. I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, there's no problem in that trope. I don't see a problem.
It's like the black people are wise and kind and ethical. Oh my goodness, how they're being reduced to being smart and compassionate. Oh, what a horrible idea.
There's only one shot that's in perfect harmony with the field. One shot that's here.
Yeah, they're going to bring up what's his face, Evan Almighty, where Thingy plays God.
Morgan Freeman again.
Morgan Freeman, that's it.
Yes.
Crucially, many white savior narratives wrap up with a heartwarming resolution.
Merry Christmas.
Oh, a film as a heartwarming resolution. Oh dear God, what a crime.
So have films since the dawn of cinema, but okay, sure. Okay, it's just this one.
I mean, Tom Cruise lost in The Last Samurai.
I don't even think that's one of the same tropes that they're talking. I think they just threw that in there. I'm not even sure that's the right kind of film. The white savior complex. I don't think he had that complex.
Well, you just have a white person and then a minority, and the white person is the protagonist, and all of a sudden it's the white savior trope. Using what? What standard? You're not even setting any kind of definition unless I'm unaware of it, because you're just using this brush to broad strokes over so many films. As long as you have a white protagonist and you have some kind of minority, all of a sudden it's a white savior film. And The Last Samurai is not a white savior film. Our other film I've already forgotten, that's not a white savior film either, because it's just about a guy getting over his racisms.
The world may still not be perfect at the end. The implicit message is that progress at large is possible and on its way because of what we've seen these individuals are capable of.
Honey, you're changing that boy's life.
No. He's changing mine.
By contrast, in movies about racism made by black filmmakers, the emotional takeaway is frequently the opposite. Audiences leave feeling challenged, confused, and even confronted.
Watching this is painful, but it's necessary. This needs to be watched.
And And when Spike Lee's Black Klansman ends by cutting from its civil rights era story to 2017 footage of the Charlottesville white supremacist
that's what I'm
rally,
talking about.
Fuck me, after 3 years, they still haven't gotten over it, and nothing else has actually fucking happened, and of course they're going to bring up Trump.
Yeah, that's the only problem I have with this movie is the end.
Like, they still haven't fucking gotten over Charlottesville, and nothing else has happened. Like, there have been no, what was it, like, rallies like this, but yet they keep bringing up the only one that actually fucking happened.
Yeah, it's pretty tiresome.
Oh, you look at all the other, protests there have been, and marches and violent rallies, and and they make up a fucking tiny minority, and yet they fucking keep bringing it up.
Donald Trump
It's almost been 4 years at
reminds
this
viewers
point.
that the fight is very much still ongoing. These films force us to reckon with the reality that racism is not some distant past, but a pernicious reality that continues to be part of all of our lives.
So many aspects of the old Jim Crow are suddenly legal again once you've been branded a felon.
What the fuck? When you're branded a
if
felon, there are aspects of the Jim Crow laws that become relevant again? What?
That means they can vote. They can't vote because they had
Prisoners, as far as I'm
criminal
aware, cannot vote. And that's not based on race.
I mean, Gary can't vote. Gary from Nerd he can't vote
Why?
because he got in prison.
Oh, so you can't even vote after prison?
Yes.
Yeah, if you're a felon...
I didn't know that.
Yeah, once you're a felon... I don't know the exact extent of the law, but felons cannot vote. So,
Jesus. I don't even know if that was like it, but I just assumed after you got out of prison, you were more than able to vote.
Tellingly, the hallmarks of the white savior narrative, a central white character, interracial reconciliation, or an employer-employee relationship that blossoms into a friendship,
White women always want to be friends with their maid.
rarely feature in the work of Black and POC filmmakers.
Dear
On
God,
the contrary, it's
how
striking
horrible that someone wants to be friends with someone. Oh no.
in films made by creators, white characters are very often on the sidelines. In Spike Lee's Malcolm X, they're either grotesque villains, distractions, or simply irrelevant.
I wanted to ask you, what can a white person like myself, who isn't prejudiced, what can I do to help you and further your cause?
Nothing.
While many classic white savior narratives frame the divide as being between racist and not racist, in the words of Angela Y. Davis, in a racist society, it is not enough to be non-racist. We must be anti-racist.
Oh boy.
Every fucker is, quotation marks, anti-racist. The fuck? If anyone walks across some legitimate racism in the street, where some guy or person, it doesn't have to be racism. If anyone is being bullied in the street publicly, if anyone is being assaulted, if anyone is doing anything they shouldn't be doing, people step in and stop it. You know, what do you think? People just stand by while someone gets mugged in broad daylight.
This is a bit different from like people who are vegans or put on demonstrations like meat is murder. Like they love eating non-meat products, but they have to like victimize those who do. It's like it must be stamped out of our society. It's like, no, they just, even if they don't
Also,
do anything, no one cares. They can have whatever philosophy they like.
The problem often with the quotation marks black perspective is it can often come from a great deal of bias from a victim narrative. Because when you're when you're already starting off with the assumption that you are the victim, and because of your race, this happens to everyone who kind of views themselves as a victim narrative. This can be women, this can be white people, black people, whatever, because there are even white people out there who think everything's against them because they're white. But just specifically in the context here of black people, if you assume every single terrible thing that happens in your life is because you're black, you're not coming to a proper conclusion. You're just assuming it is, and therefore you're going to see racism everywhere. One thing that I found very funny was a rap by, I can't remember his name, but it was the same guy from who did the TV show 4 O'Clock Club, as I was talking about before. A black guy who kind of takes the piss out of people who see absolutely everything as racist. So, like, he was last in the queue. So he said, "Oh, that queue's racist. A dog comes along, shits in front of my house. That dog obviously did it because it's racist. Oh, the paper hit me in the head. Or my coffee's too cold. I got in the bath and it was too hot." It's making an assumption that it is racist before coming to a proper conclusion by working everything out.
The problem with this mentality that I can see is if you actually think you need to be against something, you will see others who don't have the same mentality as your opponent. So it's enough to say, well, Steven is not a racist guy, but he's not as aggressive as I am on talking about these issues or going to rallies or whatever. I can't respect him because he's not thinking the same way as I do. This is not a good way of looking at the world, because if your difference between non-racism and anti-racism is jumping up and down and throwing rallies, then you're going to see everyone who doesn't do that, who doesn't think the same way as you, as an opponent. So this has nothing to do with tolerance. This has to do with attacking people for thinking differently than you. And this is what is dangerous. And we get this, at least I get this mentality a lot by interpreting the behavior of people in groups like Black Lives Matter or Antifa, who are overly aggressive with their mentalities. So there's nothing wrong with saying, yeah, I think everyone should be equal, but we live in this society where we already have that claim already. But to then dislike someone who isn't as aggressive as you are for talking about these issues or being focused on them or going to rallies and writing all these petitions seems a bit extreme.
Yep.
So this is not changing minds. You're not making a positive influence on others who don't act the same way as you. This does not look like a party I want to be a part of.
And we will not stop until the world sees it too.
When it comes to creating or watching film and TV, being anti-racist means seeking out narratives that challenge us, instead of ones that make us feel comfortable.
Gee, I don't know, read some Shakespeare, see how well you do. That'll challenge you. It's got all kinds of nasty elements in there. Racism is like it's like the tip. It's like, yeah, we got racism in there, but there's like this massive, massive iceberg of murder and incest and regicide and all sorts of other amazing.
But funny enough, the world and life is horrible. We know it. We have to live through it. We have to work every single day of our lives to put food on the table, keep a roof over our head. We have to make sure everyone's happy around us. We've got to be. There's always something going on. There's always something horrible happening in the world, and it is horrible. But again, life is just fucking life. So sometimes after we've worked hard, we like to relax and maybe watch something which makes us feel good.
Yeah, instead of going down to the pub,
you might want to watch. I don't know.
Instead of going down to the pub or a movie with your friends, you got to join a rally, Shiny. You got to start screaming in the streets and bashing on windows.
Clones are people. Clones are people.
This crazy mentality. You got to go out and strive for change. It's like, why don't you talk to your politicians? Why don't you get petitions signed? Why don't you get people who are actively motivated in a peaceful manner, in a rational debate and discourse? That would be a good start.
Isn't this also the type of people who constantly cry about mental health being a huge issue? So you're trying to force generations of people who you're crying have a lot of mental health issues, and you want them to watch depressing, horrible, nihilistic films, which makes the world seem even worse than it actually is.
It's not just the nihilistic films. It's the like this. What is Get Out? That's a horror film, which is weird and creepy. So I don't know if that's going to work in spreading the message that will challenge the narrative that racism is not only bad, but it has to be attacked from a systematic level or whatever they're considering here, a structural level. It's strange. Like what are the films we should be watching? That's a good question for this presenter. Like what's the right film to watch? Because I'm very confused now because there's so many films she threw at us that I'm just like, okay, The Last Samurai, is that good? Nope, not the right film. Is it Kill a Mockingbird? Nope, that's bad. It's like, really? Okay. Anything else?
12 Angry Men. Nope.
Can't watch 12 Angry Men. Classic. Nope, bad film. It's all about white guys. Okay.
Not even Star Wars.
Yeah, apparently.
Means actively to confront our own bias, understand ways that we're involved in racist systems, and hold ourselves and others accountable.
There are many educated Caucasian folk who are talking to each other about it. They need to continue to do that so that we can save our energy for survival and thriving.
Wait.
Wait, what?
Are you trying to tell me there's so many white dudes out there that are sticking it to you, that are putting you down, that if they just talked about their racism, you can get back to your jobs and feed your families? Really?
Well, wasn't it the whole thing that they didn't need white people to do it for them? Like they need... What? I'm confused now. This video is sending mixed messages. You need white people to talk about racism, but at the same time you don't want them to talk about racism?
I don't know. Maybe she's got some really oppressive white bosses and they keep getting in her way from doing her job. So those white bosses need to take a sabbatical and talk to other white bosses and see how much they hate the black man. And so they could spend weeks and weeks arguing about how they could better themselves so she can go back to work.
That's super cartoonish. I mean, that's unimaginable how this meeting happened.
It's ridiculous.
Like Drake the Duelist comments, this creature requires our absence, not our help. These creatures require our absence.
On Insecure, Frida.
That's what the Dianas are saying to us.
I'm just lost.
The Dianas are looking down and saying, "Hey, we don't need to act with these guys."
I don't know. The white man's oppressing the black man at work. Oh no.
At her all-white nonprofit embodies the transition from being non-racist to anti-racist. When we meet...
Here's an idea. Get a better job. Don't work at a nonprofit.
So what? Going from all what to what?
I don't know.
I missed that.
Non-racist to anti-racist.
No. Like the action of going all something to all something else, that's anti-racist.
On Insecure, Frida, Issa's co-worker at her all-white nonprofit, embodies the transition from being non-racist to anti-racist. When we meet Frida, she is well-meaning, but can be patronizing in her attempts to help black
Define
children.
anti-racist, please.
Poor children need our guidance more than anything.
However, over time we see her make a concerted effort to become more aware of how she and her organization carry implicit biases that hinder their work.
But we're not about to waste time on white people, no offense.
No, we've given white people enough time.
Wow.
What? I'm sorry, excuse me?
What is this movie? Is this a movie or a show? Like, what is this crap?
I think it is a movie.
Oh my god. So this is good. Stamping on the white boy or the white guy or the white girl or whatever. That's good. We've given them too much time. It's time for the black man to rise up. Is that it? Jesus. What society are we living in today? Holy crap.
2018 film Blindspotting and the series Dear White People highlight how even well-intentioned white people can endanger their black...
That's a show? Dear White People? Oh my god, let me search that.
It's on Netflix.
Yeah, it's a Netflix original.
Oh my god.
And the creators of Dear White People are going to be making the Lando movie.
Oh my
no.
god.
You didn't know that?
No, Shine, of course not. Why would I have that knowledge in my brain? Tell me how I would acquire that.
I don't know. You report a lot on media news.
I would talk about Netflix shows that are called Dear White People. Oh my god.
Well, it was a big controversy a few years back.
Oh yeah, well.
And then there's also all the new shows which were announced for Star Wars and movies.
I can't believe this is a thing. Well, it's a comedy, so I guess it's funny, but I guess if it is successful as a comedy, I guess it's fine, but just the name is like, ooh, that's that's a tough sell.
They're not cognizant of their privilege.
Joel, I called the cops the other night. I thought it would keep things from getting too out of control. I thought I was doing the right thing.
These stories force their white characters to face that they cannot disavow their whiteness.
I didn't mean to.
I didn't mean to be white. I'm sorry.
I can't stop being white.
Fuck.
Help me. I'm so white.
What the fuck is this? This actively sounds very racist.
I'm so white, guys. What do I do?
Just imagine the opposite.
Are you sure?
In Little Fires Everywhere, Reese Witherspoon's Elena Richardson starts out the story fashioning herself as a white savior who's self-satisfied after she does a favor for Mia Warren, a single black mother who appears to be in need.
What did Lexi tell me? You're renting to a homeless woman for practically nothing? I mean, who does that?
But when Mia not only fails to show gratitude, but also brings challenging chaos into this wealthy white woman's life, Elena is increasingly forced to confront her deep-seated biases and privilege.
I think hard work and sacrifice is a hardship as well.
And because the audience at times can empathize with her...
Wait a second. Is the tenant not paying her rent?
I assume so.
I mean, yeah, if she's paying her rent, then fine. That's what you agreed upon. What's the problem? Is it like a noise problem? Is it she bringing...
I think it's... They mentioned it was for free. Like, they're not paying anything.
Close to that, yeah. But it's just like, what is going on here? That is a strange mentality to have. Let's just invite someone into our home for free. Like, whoa, what are you doing? Maybe if it was like a friend or a family member, like, okay, but just random person because they're black. Oh boy.
Hey, look, there's a black person. I'll just invite them into my house. Ha ha ha.
I'm a good white person.
I'm a good person.
I'm not racist. I have a black person.
I don't even think this movie is charged in that way.
Story pushes viewers to look critically at themselves.
A good mother makes good choices.
You didn't make good choices. You had good choices.
Whoa, wait a second here. Whoa, slow down there, lady.
What?
You didn't make good choices. You had good choices. What? No. Even fully enough, even white people can make very bad choices in their life, which can fuck up everything. I mean, I get what she's trying to say, in that, I don't know, what I guess white people had more opportunities, and I suppose it would make sense in this context because this is a richer, very wealthy woman.
Yeah,
but taking the statement as it is, funny enough, I'm white and I made a lot of decisions in my life which ended up fucking things up. And then I had to start making good decisions, and I spent 3 years actually resetting my GCSEs and A-levels so I could actually get to university. I would have been at university, I don't know, 2 years ago if it wasn't for my bad decisions.
So this could be all sorts of things. This could be from a feminist perspective, like did she get married to the right person? Did she do her certain things in life, career-wise? Did she marry into money? Obviously the racial thing, because that's what this whole story is about. There's all sorts of ways you can take this, but
I'd actually say that obviously this woman did have more opportunities because she's rich, and this other woman didn't have the opportunities because she's poor. But it has nothing to do with their fucking race. It's the fact that rich people, funnily enough, can afford to get their kids to better schools. They can afford better education. They can afford better equipment. They can help get them into places which, like university, for instance. Like they can help pay for better universities.
That being rich and white and entitled gave you.
Another complex
Oh,
series
yeah,
starring
and
an
then fuck off,
anti-heroine,
she's wrong.
Mrs.
Yeah,
America,
it was that.
Miss America.
But being entitled doesn't give you extra opportunities. You mean you can be entitled, but being the act of being entitled doesn't give you. What the fuck is this film?
So this film right here came out in 2020 called Miss America. I've never heard of it.
subverts the white savior trope to depict a self-righteous protagonist on a mission who's not very relatable and who, far from saving anyone, causes tangible setbacks to the rights of women, the LGBTQ community, and people of color.
Now, if we pull this off, Houston will be the death knell of the women's liberation movement. Let's blow it up.
Ooh, that sounds cool. Got this anti-hero.
That sounds like a good movie.
It sounds like something I'd want to watch. Yeah, some evil character who wants to cause trouble or whatever. It's like, ooh, interesting. So
And maybe even a redemption arc.
maybe, but I like the idea that also they're presenting the antithesis of the idea. But is that bad? I don't think so.
I think it's funny that the black lady before was saying that she was the white woman was getting opportunities based on her race, when quite literally the white woman is giving her an opportunity to live in a nice house rent free without, I don't know, and I don't know if she does do any work, but I assume she doesn't, and yet she gets all of this purely because she's black.
Here is Joe Crazy, Whiteness. I swear I can't with these videos sometimes. I know the biases and the politics are pretty clear. There's this prejudice towards people of a certain skin tone, which is inherently racial. And it's almost ironic to point that out, because they're arguing about racial inequality, and yet they just keep bringing back the problems of, because this person was white, therefore they don't understand, and they're the villain.
These narratives represent a step forward from the reductive, racist versus not racist binary from white savior films of the past.
It's almost like you're stealing the identity from people who fought hard for against colonial structures.
What the hell is that? What was that?
What the heck?
I'm confused. Oh boy.
So in a way, it's almost like you are the colonist.
Meanwhile,
You're a colonist? Is that a comedy?
I think it is.
That was too specific to be taken seriously, I think.
as more black and POC
Hey, Shiny, you are a
filmmakers
colonist.
You're a colonist, Shiny, because you're
I'm a space colonist.
You're appropriating the Americans and their way of life. Okay.
gained a platform to reach large audiences, films like Black Panther, Get Out, and Sorry to Bother You have been able to show Black people grappling with how best to exist in a racist society.
Oh my god.
I'm sorry to tell you, but Black Panther is not about a racist society. I mean, the society that Black Panther is in is a little bit racist, as they don't allow white people to talk and they're very demeaning towards white people. But
I think they are only
it's not exactly like these people are being discriminated against.
Also, the movie is based on a comic made by a black man, and the main protagonist of the comic was the CIA agent. It's not even Black Panther.
Oh dear.
Sometimes clashing with each other in their views on this complex question.
It's about 2 billion.
Oh yeah, I actually call Black Panther racist because of like how demeaning it almost is towards black people. Like they're almost saying that tribalism is their culture. Like they're living in a futuristic society, but yet they still have straw huts strapped onto the side of buildings. They still have spears. They still have all these really outdated rituals because they're like, oh, we'll just take black culture, which is like tribalistic, it's just African tribes, and just we'll just mix it with sci-fi. Ooh, black people, we're like really unevolved for some reason and backwards.
Yeah, usually Afrocentrism focuses on the style and the structure of things, so like architecture and music and this and that, not having trial by combat and a bunch of other things like that are antiquated, like huts. It's usually done in the future. So yeah, I don't know.
You can go with so much.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a good example of Afrofuturism in the traditional genre sense. It's more of a let's try to adapt this comic book. It's kind of hard to follow the Black Panther comic book. You have to go from the 60s or the 70s rather, and how it's evolved over the decades to come to the movie. I haven't seen the movie, but from what I've seen the clips and all the various analyses, it seems to be a mishmash of ideas of what Wakanda is.
It's a mess, and Wakanda again is just African tribalism turned into sci-fi, and it's again, I would think it was really insulting if I was black or African, because funny enough, there are modern areas of Africa which are which have modern cities, which have all the modern conveniences, which, funny enough, don't use spears, and their system of government is not based on the strongest person to fight.
But those are a lot harder.
Crucially, Black and POC filmmakers increasingly have the
What the hell is that? Is that an earring?
Yeah, it is an earring.
What is it? Deet in your face?
I think it's deep in your face.
Oh, deep in your face. Okay. Well, it's definitely gigantic for. Wow.
opportunity to tell stories that include the challenges of racism, but are not just about that. Movies and shows about people of color must reflect a...
Wait a second. So she wants a film that has racial elements and challenges thereof, but it's not just about racism?
All the other movies were that too.
What was it? The Kill a Mockingbird about a murder trial? Or was it a rape trial? I can't remember exactly what the conviction was. That's what that was about. It wasn't specifically about racism. That just happened to have a black guy in the time period. That's just like what do you want? Tell us what you want. Give us a clear understanding of the criticism you're providing.
Diversity of individuals and stories, in which confronting prejudice is one part of a complex lived experience.
Like the
All the other movies was that.
Wait a
How the
second.
other
Sorry,
movies was
I
about
want to
that.
hear what they're going to say. I want to hear what
So
this lady's going to say.
prejudice is the key. It's not racism. It's the prejudice against people. If that's the case, why are we talking about racism all this time? You can have prejudice over anything.
We are diverse within ourselves. There is
We
not
have-
a monolithic black experience.
We have to be diverse in ourselves. What the fuck does that mean?
Oh,
Created by
of
two
course.
white women.
Super white
Jesus
women.
Christ. This
Of
is just
course.
ironic. It is. This video was made by two white women talking about white people lowering themselves to help these poor black people, and then you've got multiple conflicting quotes. Some saying we don't need white people's help. Other ones saying we need white people to do all the fighting for us, so we don't need to do it. And you're just sending a lot of mixed messages. This whole video is just nonsense.
It was pretty nonsensical. I agree.
So that was disappointing.
Yeah, it was pretty disappointed. I think.
So maybe there'll be more credits. Maybe we'll have a black person. Nope, no black people on the credits. Okay, good.
Toxic takeaways. The problem with Ross
all women.
from Friends.
All
Wow.
women production.
Cara Washington, Jessica Babineau, April J. Barber, Julian R. Lynn, Melissa Fogelman. God, gotta throw a guy in there. Sharpen these ladies up. Come on. Have a conversation at the water cooler for more than 10 minutes. Holy jeez. I don't know.
Yeah, I noticed that this video was pretty disappointing and pretty pointless.
All right, let me read the about section of the Takes YouTube channel. This is the Take. It's where you come to understand more about your favorite movies, shows, and culture. So they're culture critics. Oh God. Our video essays make the story worlds you enter richer and deeper. Think endings explained, character studies, hidden messages, and symbols revealed, actor and director profiles, and more. We want to share our love of visual culture with the world, so here's our take. So, in reality, we're a bunch of bleeding heart leftists who feel all these other left-leaning ideas of guilt by virtue of being born, and we gotta help people by making YouTube videos talking about
This just looks
Ross.
almost the exact same as Watch Mojo.
No.
Like
Watch
all
Mojo
the other ones.
does popular
Yeah.
weird shit. This is like, here's our politics. Like, Ross is toxic because he's a white man and he's pining for a girl who doesn't want him anymore. He's a loser. He's bad. He's a bad influence for his friend. Like, all this other nonsense about a comedy sitcom. It's just silly. Oh, dear. Oh, they got pictures of Walter White. They got Get Out character on their banner on their YouTube channel. You got Daenerys. I don't know who these other dudes are. Looks like maybe 2001 Space Odyssey. I can't quite tell. But they do videos almost every other day. And there are why we ship characters from X-Files to Raylo. Oh, God.
Eh?
The sexy vampire trope explained. Why 500 Days of Summer is so misunderstood. Toxic takeaways. Sorry?
Those titles make me remember Maggie May Fish videos.
It's like a Maggie May Fish production company. It's like but because there's so many, they got to water it down with like all their ideas, as opposed to one crazy person with full power. Like the funny fat girl trope explained. The Becky trope explained. What's wrong with superhero culture? The boys. Wow. Anyway, that was a ride.
I think I'm going to take a gun to my face and blow my fucking brains out. I think
I'm gonna
because that was painful.
Gonna get some more bourbon. Gonna have a nice
Yeah,
night.
it was.
Take it easy. You get some tea. That'll relax me. Wow. Okay, guys. Well, thanks for tuning in. That was a weird one. Most of these political videos are, I mean, the ones from Renegade Cut are just like seeping with like innuendo of, oh, everything's bad. So why don't you join the rebellion with me? so we can fight the evil white
When
man.
were you radicalized? Capitalism cannot be fixed because capitalism is working as intended.
Well, I should know.
Capitalism was designed to keep people down and make the rich richer. It is something which is working as designed. You've said this fucking so many times, mate.
At the end of the video,
We
he's an
need a
anarchist.
communist utopia.
I need to become a language teacher in Mozambique, and then I'll learn the ways of the collective style.
When
of
I
living.
was a language teacher and I was in foreign countries, I felt very isolated because no one wanted to be my friend.
Oh boy. Okay. We're going to call this an evening. Thanks, guys. Keep the recommendations coming. I'm going to refresh the voting on our channel. I can't remember which one it was, but keep voting either this evening or tomorrow morning and then on. Keep the suggestions coming. I'm still going through all the suggestions. It takes me some time, but the weekend's upon us. So, have a drink, relax, wake up late, do your thing. Try not to go out. I guess we're still all under quarantine. The whole world's under quarantine, so we can't go out as much as we like, unfortunately. Yeah. So hopefully Christmas next week will come early and we'll have a lot to eat and drink and lots of presents under the mailbox from Amazon or wherever you buy your presents these days. So that'll be a nice little relaxation or opportunity for vacation if you want to consider staycations at home, which we've been doing all year. So hopefully we'll keep you occupied till then. So have a good one. We'll talk to you guys real soon. Have a good night.